Three, two, one.
There is no victor, only doom. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Franchise Deep Dive with Jake and Josh, the podcast where we break down, dissect, and discuss all of your favorite and least favorite movie franchises. I'm Jake.
And I'm Josh.
And today, we continue our little Fantastic Four series, but before we do that, I have a confession. Since we last recorded part one of this series and talked about the two Tim Story Fantastic Four movies, regretfully, I have listened to Newts by Fant4stic every single day, sometimes twice a day, since that recording.
There's nothing to be ashamed of, because guess what? I've done the same thing.
Oh, all right.
Not every day. It comes on in like my pop punk playlist.
Oh.
And sometimes I shuffle that up during the gym sessions, and I never skip it if it comes on.
It might be my favorite Fant4stic song at this point.
It was mine for a little bit.
I didn't even listen to the album that this song was off of, but I went back and listened to All Killer No Filler from Fant4stic,
That's
which has
a lot of fun.
Which has their big hits like Fat Lip and In Too Deep, which were like huge songs for me in college. But yeah. Also, I also listened to Surrender by Simple Plan every single day as well. So
that's on. Wait, is it? Simple Plan has a Surrender. I know Less Than Jake has a Surrender cover too, which I don't know if you know that.
I didn't, but the Fantastic Four one is Simple Plan.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's also on that.
I didn't realize that was in the movie.
Yeah. I forget which scene it is because like the snowboard scene with Newts playing is so iconic. It's probably my favorite scene in that movie. But so if you can already tell, guys, me and Josh are doing everything possible to try to avoid talking about the first movie that we are talking about today. And if you skipped the title of the episode before you clicked on it, we'll fill you in a little bit. We are concluding our Fantastic Four series in this second episode here, talking about the 2015 Fant4stic from Josh Trank, and also our first brand new movie, and that is, of course, Fantastic Four First Steps, the new MCU entry. So very excited to, I guess, get into both of those, but without further ado, let's get into Fant4stic, and then we can talk about, I guess, our history with it.
How do you feel about the title with the 4 in the middle?
It is the dumbest
I
thing.
absolutely love it.
It's probably the dumbest. It is the dumbest thing since Alien 3, or Alien Cubed, as some have called it, where they made the 3 really small in the corner of that movie. So it looks like the cubed in
I
math.
love Fant4stic. I think it's like the funniest shit for a title.
It's to the point where I only call it that.
Yeah.
I never call it Fantastic Four 2015. When I Google search it, I type in Fant4stic.
I don't, because I don't feel
Every
like
time.
hitting the numbers, hitting 4. That pisses me off.
No, I do it every time. It's like subconscious. I don't even.
It's gotten to the point where
is.
I for a little bit thought that that's what they wanted it to be called, because everyone calls it Fant4stic. At first, I thought it was like a joke, which it is. It is. But then I heard it so much from everybody. I thought it was like, I was like, wait, is this really what they wanted it to be called? Or they just wanted to do like what 7 did with the 7 in the middle, but still say the title Fantastic Four?
Yeah, big difference is 7 is an actual good fucking movie, and Fant4stic is a big steaming pile of
If this was
shit.
great.
Oh, crap. Did I lend my
Yeah.
hand?
If this movie was great, do you think people would call it Fant4stic, or would they take it seriously and call it Fantastic Four?
No, they'd still call it
Okay,
Fant4stic. People are assholes. I'm an asshole. But either way, let's get into it. Fant4stic 2015, directed by Josh Trank. I just realized in my notes I wrote directed by Josh Frank, not Josh Trank.
Frank is
but
way
it is
better.
Josh Trank.
Frank is way better.
I kind of like Trank. I don't know, like a tranquilizer dart or something.
I don't know. He's
Budget
giving my name
of
a bad name.
Budget of 120 mil, box office of 167.9 mil. And out of curiosity, do you know the Rotten Tomatoes score?
I do. I do.
It is a whopping 9% on Rotten Tomatoes. And can you pull it up real quick? I want to take a guess on the Metacritic.
Okay, go for it. I know what it is. I got it up.
32.
Nope.
No. What is it?
27.
Oh, okay. I should have gone lower. Why didn't I go lower? Honestly, a 27. If you give this movie a positive review, we have said multiple times on this podcast, guys, that we are not the podcast to tell you what to like and what not to like. We just share our personal opinions and experiences with different films, and what we like and what you like may be different. But this is one of those very few movies, kind of like Black Christmas 2019, where if you try to tell me this is a good movie, I just do not take you seriously at that
I just won't believe you. I just
one
won't
of
believe
those.
you. Like, you could tell me all you want. I just think you're joking.
I would need somebody to sit me down and bare minimum just give me a paragraph, 5 sentences most. What is good about this movie? What you enjoyed about this? Just that alone. Not even good. What did you enjoy about Fant4stic? But I guess we'll read the IMDb synopsis to try to, I guess, set the stage for this little flick. Let's see what IMDb describes this movie as. 4 young outsiders teleport to an alternate and dangerous universe which alters their physical form in shocking ways. The 4 must learn to harness their new abilities and work together to save Earth from a former friend turned enemy.
So,
did they learn to use their powers in this? Because I must have missed that.
well, there's a 10 minutes after the 45 minutes they make you wait for them to get their powers, then it's followed by 10 minutes of them just being held and tested on. So it's like involuntary use in those 10 minutes, and then you get I don't give a shit that I'm jumping around in this movie. I don't care. Then you get a year jump, and you just get a recap that they've been learning how to use their powers, but you don't see it. You just see it on the screen for a little bit.
Now, I gotta ask you. You had not seen this before this viewing, right?
Actively
First time
avoided
seeing
it.
Well, you're smarter than I, because actually, I don't know. I didn't spend money on it because we were both working at Regal Cinemas at the time, 2015 when this came out. So I did go and see it, and
I wish I saw it.
to my amazement, as Josh just referenced, this is an origin story, an origin film. And now, while we might have complained in the last 2 Fantastic Four movies, they probably spend a little bit too long fucking around and learning their powers and that sort of stuff. But I will take that any day over maybe the most obnoxious and incoherent 1 year later text on the screen. They get their powers, as Josh said, about 45 minutes into the movie. And you might think that they spent that 45 minutes developing the characters. They did not. And then they get their powers. Reed Richards, king asshole, king douchebag over here, just fucking abandons his friends, his best friend, leaves, goes into hiding for a year. And then,
Yeah. You know what?
Where do we begin? I don't even know.
I could very well bump this down from my letterbox because I probably should.
You will by the end of this. I saw your score.
Yeah.
And guys, the way we're talking about Josh's score is almost as if he gave this like a moderately okay score. He gave it a very, very low score, and it will drop by the end of this
I was very
episode.
between the 2 options, and I was like, is this too harsh? I don't know. I got to talk about it and see, because I kind of wanted it to give it its lowest, but I was like, am I just being spiteful? Maybe that's okay for this movie. I don't know.
It's not spiteful. It's honest. And yeah, I mean, I'd like to start actually at the beginning, as we never really do. We don't talk about films kind of chronologically on this podcast. We sort of jump around to different bits and whatnot. Occasionally we'll start at the beginning, but I'd like to start at the beginning, where you meet a 10-year-old Reed Richards and a 10-year-old Ben Grimm, and they are in school, and it's career day. and they were given the assignment to write a paper on what kind of career they would like. To which the film opens with the voiceover of a young boy in the class talking about how he wants to be a professional NFL quarterback and that his hero is Eli Manning, which I know Giants fans. I live with a Giants fan. Nobody's favorite hero, nobody's favorite player is Eli Manning. I don't care that he won 2 Super Bowls. The guy is like an interception machine. That's has nothing to do with this movie, but then Reed Richards goes up after this kid. And I didn't even mention, but this kid, it's not even a report. He says 4 things. He says what his favorite person, Eli Manning, does, the average salary, and then that's it. And then Reed goes up, little 10-year-old Reed Richards walks up to the front of the class and goes into this spiel about how he wants to be the first person to, teleport humans?
Yeah.
Or something. And the teacher just shuts that shit down immediately. I had some dickhead teachers. I had some asshole teachers. We all have. No fucking teacher in their right mind would shut down a kid with like aspirations of being like a scientist, right? That's essentially what he wants to do. He wants to be a scientist and work on teleportation. And the teacher's like, no, fuck you, sit down, go rewrite your report. And before we started recording, I asked you if you knew who the teacher was, and you said he looked familiar. Would you believe me if I told you that he is the voice of Homer Simpson?
No, I wouldn't. I looked it up after you said it. I was like, no fucking way.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Homer Simpson is the teacher in Fant4stic. Now, before we get into talking more about the plot and the lack thereof, and just all of the issues that just plague this film start to finish, I have to ask. I lost my train of thought there. Oh no! Now I remember, because it had to do with the director. Do you know any of like the behind the scenes issues that sort of plagued this movie in regards to director Josh Trank?
Yeah, I know some of the stuff. Yeah.
Okay. Do you want to break into that a little
Sure.
bit? Because I feel like that kind of does set the stage for the product that we ultimately got.
Yeah, I'm kind of confused a little bit on like how much like there was like people dropping out of the project, so let's try and like get into some of that, because maybe I didn't read all of it.
Well, in line with that, did you know that Stan Lee declined to star in this movie in a cameo?
Yeah, no, I didn't see that, but I saw that I forget what I read. He declined something else. Maybe it was that, or maybe it was something else.
Yeah, so they asked him to do a cameo in this movie, and he said no, which is really funny because he has a cameo in like every fucking Marvel movie, which is just a testament to how shitty this movie is. But yeah, you had a couple of people in talks for other roles. I know Anton Yelchin, rest in peace. He died tragically very young in a very horrific way. He was kind of in the running for the role of Reed Richards. I know that Mads Mikkelsen auditioned for the role of Doctor Doom, but apparently walked out of his audition. So I think that's kind of funny. I also read, too, that I didn't know this. Mads Mikkelsen, I guess, auditioned for the role of Reed Richards in the 2005 Fantastic Four.
I'm surprised like he auditioned, because they were going for a younger cast of people.
Well, yes, but not originally. And I want to make sure I get the exact casting correct. And I do recall saving it. Where did I have that in my notes? Okay, maybe I didn't save that. But either way, back to Josh Trank, because that's kind of the focal point of what my thoughts are in this in regards to this movie. So Josh Trank, he's kind of coming hot off of Chronicle, which was released in 2012, which is a movie that I really love. It's one of those movies where it's probably like a 6 or 7 out of 10, but I love it. And it's just because it's very unique. Found footage, 90% of the time, probably more, is used solely for horror films. But Josh Trank took found footage and kind of blended it with a superhero origin story, or supervillain origin story, I guess, if you will. But he was coming hot off of that film. And so he got tasked with making Fantastic Four. And fun fact, the only reason that this movie was even made to begin with was because Fox Studios was at risk of losing the rights to Fantastic Four if this film was not released by 2015. As the way that the rights had worked was they had a 7-year time span after Rise of the Silver Surfer to make another Fantastic Four film, or the rights would revert back to Marvel. To which Marvel approached Fox Studios at the time and said that they would give them more time to develop Daredevil and reboot Daredevil if Fox would give them the rights to Fantastic Four and by extension other characters in the Fantastic Four realm like Galactus, like Annihilus, and it would allow Marvel to tap into more of that cosmic entities that they had kind of been lacking in the MCU. And Fox said, no, fuck that. Which, on the bright side, did lead to Marvel rebooting Daredevil with the amazing, amazing Netflix series, which to this day, I love a lot of comic book films. I love a lot of superhero projects, but I still think that Netflix's Daredevil seasons 1 through 3, specifically season 1 and 3, and the first 4 episodes of season 2 are the best superhero content out there, the best comic book content out there. It is fucking spectacular. Unfortunately, Daredevil Born Again kind of sucked, and it was just completely incoherent and all over the place in terms of story and character. But either way, I think that's an interesting starting point. Josh Trank himself fought for Miles Teller to get the role of Reed Richards, which is hilarious in hindsight because the two got into so many arguments during the filming of this movie and on set that they almost got into a fist fight at one point. On the flip side, Josh Trank wanted Allison Williams for the role of Sue Storm, but the studio overpowered him and got Kate Mara for the role, to which apparently Josh Trank was so frustrated and upset by that he would constantly degrade and bully Kate Mara over the course of filming for this movie. To add on to that, it is reported, I don't know if it was ever confirmed, but it was reported that the hotel that Josh Trank was staying at that Fox Studios had put him up in during the course of filming, he had 2, I think it was either pit bulls or some similar dog, destroyed the hotel room and caused thousands of dollars in damage.
I heard it was $100,000 in damage. Like, that's insane. This guy's a piece of shit.
Again, we don't know.
He sounds like a piece of shit. Yeah, you're right. Let me give him the benefit. He sounds like a piece of shit.
I don't know Josh Trank. I don't. And again, we have highlighted on this podcast, like, that's a part of talking about franchises is there are a lot of times where the studio kind of comes in and overtakes the project. Apparently, after the initial cut of this movie, Fox Studios was reportedly very unhappy with what they saw. The film was apparently too violent and too kind of gross in certain scenes, and they ended up ultimately leaving in some of the more grosser body horror elements that clearly Josh Trank was trying to go for and kind of tap into that David Cronenberg style of filmmaking with a lot of like grotesque body horror images and sequences and whatnot, which I just don't think really fits the Fantastic Four. I know it's
the wrong content to try to explore that style, I think.
Yeah, and I know that there are Fantastic Four comics that are a little bit darker and a little bit more horror-esque, but I think the characters, Reed, Sue, Johnny, Ben, they all work better in the context of a lighter story that's a little bit more hopeful, a little more inspirational, not this kind of darker, grotesque body horror kind of film. Now, I would like to read you a tweet from director Josh Trank that came out around the time of the release of this movie. And it was a tweet that was also deleted by Josh Trank later on, but it said, "A year ago, I had a fantastic version of this, and it would have received great reviews. You'll probably never see it. That's reality, though."
This dude's just high on his own supply. Like, I mean, that's just because he ended up walking away from this project, right? When they were doing all their like reshoots, right?
Yes, correct. And that was going off of what I had just mentioned, where they were so unhappy with the original cut of the movie that they went in and did reshoots to the point where Toby Kebbell, who plays, or is it Toby or Tobin? Toby. Toby Kebbell, who plays Victor Von Doom slash Doctor Doom in this. I guess it's sort of Doctor Doom. Not really. Actually, not at all. But, he has the name. To the point where he was not on set and in the costume for a good portion of the scenes involving Doctor Doom. So I think that's always
His
fun.
name wasn't originally Victor Von Doom in the original draft, right? It was like
Victor Domashev.
yeah.
It was Victor Domashev and even Tim Blake Nelson's character. I forget the specific character that he was going to play, but it was a comic book character, and then later on changed his name to the point where even in interviews, you can see Toby Kebbell saying that the character's name is Victor Domashev, and the other actor, Tim Blake Nelson, saying that his character had a different name too, which is obviously not the final product that we ended up getting, but...
Yeah, because he was supposed to be Mole Man, right? That's what they were kind of. Yeah.
Yes. Mole Man, who is an iconic Fantastic Four villain. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, people of the internet, but I believe he is the first villain in the first issue of Fantastic Four that we see. And I believe, it hasn't been confirmed, but I believe that we are getting a Mole Man in the new Fantastic Four movie. The
Really?
Fantastic Four First Steps. Yeah, played by the guy from Cobra Kai, Paul Walter Hauser. He was also in that movie Richard Jewell,
Yeah.
the one about the security guard who gets like blamed for a bombing. But yeah, so with all of that kind of setting the stage, a lot of issues, a lot of kind of one thing I actually do remember a couple months back, I don't know why, but I stumbled upon an interview with Josh Trank where he was on somebody's podcast and he was talking about how he very much so, and I guess this conflicts with what I had said earlier about how he wanted Allison Williams, but I think before that, he fully wanted a black Johnny Storm, a black Sue Storm, and a black, what's their father's name? Is it Franklin?
Yeah, Franklin Storm.
Franklin Storm. Yeah, so he wanted an all-black Storm family, and the studio was the one that came in and was like, no, like, we're at least going to have a white Sue Storm, which I think is kind of interesting because I feel like with movie discussions and movie discourse lately, we've seen a lot of fans and moviegoers have this sentiment that it is always the studio that is the one trying to do different race swaps or gender swaps for already established characters. But in this case, it was the director who wanted to change the race of these characters, and it was the studio who came in and was like, no. So I thought that was kind of interesting. And again, whatever can be said about Josh Trank's character, I'm always going to feel bad at least a little bit and have a little bit of sympathy for a director or a person who's trying to make a film and the studio comes in and just dictates what they do. I understand that's a very real issue with a lot of studio films, but at the end of the day, I understand they're trying to make money, but you're best letting the director do what he wants to do. Because at the very least, you can then just pin it on the director. If the movie's a failure, it's the director's fault. But now there's this kind of issue where it's like, well, part of it's Josh Trank's fault and part of it's the studio's fault. And it just seems like, I mean, from the get-go, when you're making a movie for the sole reason of keeping the rights to these characters instead of making a movie to entertain or to be a piece of art, you already are starting off on the wrong foot. I don't know.
And I heard I think from Josh Trank that like he admitted that he was dealing with a lot of like anger issues at the time, I think, and he was like all over the place on Twitter. I think I read that Stan Lee even like messaged him asking like if he was okay because he was just like spiraling, I think.
Yeah, no, and I think that is just, it is kind of tragic in a sense because it's like you're hot off this movie Chronicle, which is a big success. You're given the rights to make a big studio film based on these popular characters. You're not too far off, 7 years off of the last Fantastic Four, which, neither of those films were, critical darlings or super beloved, but people do have an affinity for those movies, even to this day. I know people
now
who still really love. Yeah, it's kind of turned around, and I wonder if Fant4stic is a part of that, because it's like, well, this is, it's kind of like my sentiment with like the Halloween movies, where it's like, yeah, Halloween 4, 5, and 6 aren't good movies, but you know what? I find them a lot more entertaining and a lot more fun than the recent David Gordon Green trilogy. I'd watch them over the Rob Zombie Halloween movies. So it is always like a kind of comparison thing where it's like, but I don't like that because I don't like that retroactive love for like the Star Wars prequels, where it's like those movies were hated for years. And yeah, just because the Disney sequels were a bit of a mess and had a lot of issues plaguing them, that doesn't retroactively make the prequels good. So it's not like the Tim Story movies are retroactively better. It's just like, hey, they're a little bit more fun. They're a little bit more campy. You can have a lot more enjoyment watching those than watching this, which I would love for you to tell the listeners your little viewing experience with Fant4stic and how you consumed this movie.
So I do want to say I am waiting for this movie to become like the Star Wars prequels or all the movies that eventually get more and more love. It's already happening with Fantastic Four from the 2000s. Like people are now have been coming in to defend it. I think if Marvel can like if they get worse and worse, this movie's gonna just have a resurgence in popularity. I hope it does. I really hope it does. But yeah, so this movie, I told Jake that I took 4 separate sit downs to finish this. I just
The movie is not even an hour and 50.
yeah, I just kept
fact.
kept pausing it and going about my day. Like it's not even like I paused it to get a snack. I would pause it and make a meal and then do a couple other things and then come back and be like, all right, let's resume. I was like 25 minutes in my first pause. That was Friday night and I just paused it and I didn't continue it. Then the next day I resume it. I pause it at like maybe like 40 some minutes or it was like right after they got their powers. Maybe before. I don't remember. But yeah, it was I know it was like 4 separate times at least. I just kept pausing it to like do something else. I was just like I can only do so much. This is really really draining me. It's so fucking boring. And I really should have just done it in one shot, honestly, cuz like it made it worse. It made it longer. I knew I had to come back to it. So, it was really just dwelling on me.
Just couldn't do it.
It was horrible. It was horrible.
Well, and I think that kind of is the biggest cardinal sin. I'm very openly critical of when people kind of their sole criticism of a movie is just, oh, it's boring, because it's like, what does that mean, really? But this movie is boring for very legitimate reasons. The performances are not good, and these are all good actors. I think Kate Mara, Tobin Kebbell, Miles Teller is great in Whiplash. I think all around, Michael B. Jordan is great. I just saw Sinners the other day. He is fantastic. He plays 2 different characters, and he's very, very good. He's great in Fruitvale Station, and he's the best part of Black Panther. But in this movie, it really just feels like in every scene, nobody wanted to be there.
Yeah.
And when you kind of watch this movie with the added knowledge of director Josh Trank really hating Kate Mara and just not treating her properly on set, according to reports, and getting into almost fistfights with Miles Teller, that sort of stuff, you can really see it in the final product, in my opinion, as so many scenes, especially like that scene where Miles Teller, as Reed Richards, he goes into the library and he goes and sits down with Kate Mara as Sue Storm, and he's trying to like talk to her, and it's clear that she doesn't really want to talk to him, but he just keeps like pestering her. That's like the first time these characters are really trying to they're trying to establish some sort of relationship with these characters, and just all around, when they're trying to like establish these dynamics, the only dynamic that is like semi kind of believable is, I guess, Reed and Ben. And it's only because you see that they become friends as kids. And like, I don't want to be mean to kids, but they're giving these kids dialogue, especially the little 10-year-old who's playing young Reed Richards. They're giving him this like really, really like weighty and hefty scientific dialogue that they expect this little kid to deliver, and it sounds so fucking unnatural. And all I could do is feel bad for him, because it's not the kid's fault, he didn't cast himself in this movie, he didn't write this dialogue. but it just doesn't help the performance. And again, going back to that scene in the library, like all I could think was Kate Mara. She just so does not want to be here right now. And it's not her fault. Like, yeah, if I'm an actress trying to do a project and like the director is constantly belittling me and berating me because I wasn't his initial choice, yeah, I'm not gonna act like I want to be there. Of course,
I don't know, man.
Like,
Sometimes,
I don't blame her at all.
sometimes it can really pay off. It did for Shelley Duvall.
Stanley Kubrick is fucking psychotic for that.
Yeah. So back to the teacher. This teacher, I don't know why he hates Reed so much. Maybe he's jealous that he's so smart, but like this man targets Reed all the way to like the end of the school year during their science fair. Like he's just got it out for this kid that's just really smart.
I think that science fair shit is so funny because now it's like, they do like a little time skip, and Reed and Ben are seniors in high school. So it's like a very normal school science fair to where like kids are building like little volcanoes and doing like normal little science projects, and Reed waltzes in with like a interdimensional teleportation device, and you find out later could have created a black hole that destroyed the entire world. And he does his little thing after stealing this other little kid's plane from his science project, and does his little test thing, and all that comes back is like this little bit of sand. And to your point, the teacher is like, Mr. Richards, this is a science fair, and I don't see any science. This is this is magic, this is a magic show. Like, what are you doing, you idiot? Like, holy fuck, Homer Simpson. Chill the fuck out, man. Like, come on. What are we doing?
Pretty damn
What
good
are we
trick,
doing
if you ask
here?
me. I mean, the plane came back with sand on it. We're like, I mean, I don't know, but
Yeah, like, at least maybe look into this a little bit. I also love, too, that Franklin Storm is just, like, trolling, like, casual, like, high school science fairs for, like, the next big genius.
yeah. I also like that. I think how many kids does Franklin have, do you think, in his life? How many kids do you think he adopted? Because he could.
Just
No,
one.
because he calls he says everyone is his kid. He calls everyone son. Like everyone.
I think that's just like an old man thing. Like, that's just an old man. They say son a lot.
I know, but
How you doing, son?
I just kept telling myself, this man they're just all his kids. He just has so many kids.
I think he's the only person in this entire movie giving a good performance, is that actor who plays Franklin. He's the only one who's like seemingly like he gives a shit.
I just like that
Maybe
there
it's
was a
just
scene where he's calling Johnny son, and then I think he calls Reed son, and it's like very like it's like back to back, and he might even call Ben son. I'm just like, this man he's just calling everybody his son, and I get that's like a thing you just call people, like it doesn't literally mean that, but I just think it's funny that I don't know
Well, speaking of Ben, I think it's hilariously awful that they take the Thing's most famous catchphrase or line, which is "it's clobberin' time," and they link it to when Ben is a child and gets abused by his brother, to which right after that you see that his older brother gets abused by the mom. And it's like, listen, I'm not opposed to darker themes or elements in my superhero movies, but something about the way that this film just emphasizes the darkness and the grittiness, it just doesn't really align with Fantastic Four. It feels like they are trying to like make, I don't know, it feels like they're trying to make like a dark Batman comic, but like with Fantastic Four characters, and it just does not.
Yeah, he was like
the
trying
two
to
just
do
not connect.
He was
very
just trying
well.
to do what Christopher Nolan did with Batman, except with Batman it works with Batman because Batman, there's a lot of dark material around him, and you did say that there's dark material around Fantastic Four, but it's not what it's known for, and it just doesn't fit. It just doesn't fit those characters. It doesn't. But like, not only like tonally is this dark, this movie is dark and just so bleak. I kept texting Jake how gray this movie is. Like, it is so fucking like black and white.
No, there is a severe lack of just any color or vibrancy in this movie. every scene just feels like they turned the
their uniforms are
the
black.
fucking
Like,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
just weird. But why? First off, I hate that it's such a goofy line. Like, it's just a fun, goofy line. It's clobbering time. It's a signature funny line, or just silly catchphrase. Okay, the brother's saying it. Why does Ben carry it with him like 20 years later? Like, why does he use that? Like,
well, that's another funny element, right? So, like I said, they do like a 10-year time skip, or I guess it's like 8 years or whatever, because they're 10 years old when the film starts, and then they're seniors in high school when they do that kind of flash forward. So they're supposed to be 18, right? Miles Teller and Toby Kebbell were both almost 30 years old when they filmed this. So now we're just running into that like Sam Raimi territory, like with his Spider-Man movies, where the high schoolers look like full-grown adults, which is kind of fun and campy in the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies because those films go for a campier, sillier tone. Whereas this movie, as we've kind of already talked about, is so bleak. It is just filled with dread and despair in every scene, both like through the writing, through the tone, and the atmosphere. But also, like Josh said, through the visuals. It just feels like every scene in like the color correction process that they were just like, let's just strip down the saturation, down to like 30%. Let's make it as gloomy and gray as we possibly can, like you're watching like a Twilight movie. It's really, I don't know, in terms of like visuals, it is so ugly to look at. Like, there's not a single frame in this movie. There is not a single scene or sequence where I'm like, wow, that visually looked nice. And not even like, hey, that looks visually nice, because there's movies that are intentionally like ugly in terms of like color correction, or it's supposed to look dingier.
Like Texas.
A movie like Seven. Oh, yeah. Like, Texas Chainsaw Massacre has like a dingier look. A movie like Seven is kind of dark and grungy. Fight Club, dark and grungy. But again, you have to understand, like, the visuals have to accompany the characters and the story that you're telling. And while the story is kind of darker in terms of its like themes and how it kind of plays out, again, the Fantastic Four, I don't think they lend themselves particularly well to this kind of style of filmmaking or visuals. And then, whereas I feel like, I don't know, I kind of criticized the last two Fantastic Four movies for not really having that sense of family. And that's such a big part of the Fantastic Four, is they are a family. They are Marvel's first family. I don't know if I said it last episode, but you would not have the X-Men. You would not have the Avengers. You would not have, so many of these popular, iconic superhero teams if you didn't have the Fantastic Four. They set that foundation. They laid that groundwork. They are a family through and through. And in this film, even less than the Tim Story films.
Yeah, this movie makes Tim Stories look like a fucking, like, the closest unit I've ever seen.
They make the Tim Story movies seem like those Fantastic Four characters are like the Brady Bunch, and it's all happy-go-lucky. Whereas in this one, they don't even seem like any of them like each other,
or even know
like,
each other.
At all.
Like, I get no relationship, sibling, like anything from Sue and Johnny, except for like her saying, "Were you racing again?" Like, that's it. That's all she says, where it's like, oh, this bit about him. But like,
and that begs my question: why? Like, I had issues with why they brought Johnny to the space station in the Tim Story movie. Why the fuck is Johnny working on this interdimensional teleportation device?
I have it written.
He races cars.
I have it written that he gets grounded from his dad and gets his car taken away, and his punishment is to come work for his dad as an engineer for like NASA. So on this, on this like history changing.
I'm glad you.
Like project of teleportation. He's brought in as an engineer.
Yeah, I'm glad that you brought up. I'm glad that you brought that up.
Dude, he gets grounded.
Is a fucking headache.
His punishment is to come. Get this insanely elaborate, important job in like, oh my god,
like it's like when Reed gets the internship, it's like made pretty evidently clear, like, this is a very prestigious honor to come work for Franklin Storm. But I'm glad you brought up NASA, because it's another like script and story issue that I have, is they finish building the teleportation machine, and they figure it out. They bring in Victor Von Doom, again played by Toby Kebbell, Toby Kebbell, whatever. They bring in Toby Kebbell. They go and get Victor Von Doom, and if you thought that the introduction to Victor Von Doom in the first Fantastic Four movie was fucking terrible, well, here he's just some fucking loser in a fucking shitty little dungeon playing video games with his mind, I guess. Like, he's not playing the video game, but there's a video game on one of his monitors, and he has like a headset device that makes me think he's playing the video game like neurologically through his brain, which
Dude,
is
it's
fucking
crazy
hilarious.
how good Doctor Doom looks in Tim's stories. Not even not even visually. Like, I just love that Doctor Doom compared to this one, because
and that's crazy because that Doctor Doom also sucks. But again, it's like in comparison to this, at the very least, he gets the green hood. He gets the iconic Doctor Doom mask in that. And I think they could have done a lot better with that design, but it at least looks like Doctor Doom. The Doctor Doom that we get in this is like the Temu Wish version. We have Doctor Doom at home version of Doctor Doom.
it's like
It
Deadpool,
just resembles
right?
the
It kind of looks
character.
like the Deadpool in Wolverine.
Dude, that is honestly the best fucking comparison. It is exactly like what they did to Ryan Reynolds' Deadpool in X-Men Origins Wolverine. An absolute just butchering
It's
of
like
the
the same
character,
mouth
both
too.
in design.
It's like the same exact mouth also.
Yeah. Oh, my God. That stupid fucking line that Sue has where they're talking about Earth and, what is it? Doctor Doom says something, or he's not Doctor Doom, he's Victor Von Doom at this point. He says, oh, well, maybe we shouldn't save the Earth because the people who run it are the ones destroying it. Maybe we don't deserve to save it or whatever. And Sue goes, oh, Doctor Doom over here.
I fucking hated it
At that
much.
point,
At
that point, I thought about climbing to the top of my apartment building and just taking a swan dive.
I think I paused
That
it.
was so.
I think I
fucking-
paused it after that. It was like during that scene, or
That's a good
or after
pause
that
moment,
scene.
yeah.
I paused it and I was like, tomorrow we'll continue. I was so mad at that line. I was just like, this is just so fucking lazy. It's oh my God. What's worse? I guess the clobbering time might be a little worse.
I think too. One thing that's really funny is Ben Grimm disappears for at least 30 minutes of this movie, to the point that I forgot he was in this movie, because Reed goes off to work at the Baxter Foundation or whatever. Franklin Storm collects him to come work on this interdimensional teleportation thing, and so obviously Ben doesn't come with him, and that's when Reed, Sue, Victor, and Johnny all start working on this machine, and they build it or whatever. And I had to bring it up because you had brought up NASA. So they don't work for NASA, but they do bring in NASA at one point, because once they complete the teleportation device, that's when Tim Blake Nelson's character, he comes in and he's like, oh, well, now we have to contact NASA. And they're all like, huh? What do you mean? And he's like, we have to go get astronauts to send over there. And they're all like perplexed.
I want to go.
None of you are fucking astronauts.
I want to go. I built this.
You are engineers. Let me tell you this. The people who build NASCAR cars and the people who build F1 cars are not the same fucking people who drive them. You fucking idiots. You absolute
Dude, there's
fucking dumbasses.
there's so much ego in this movie. Like, they just
and then they get fucking hammered. They get plastered drunk, and they're like, wouldn't it be funny if we went over and we just went in? You're talking about going to a different fucking dimension, and you think this is the decision to make when you're drunk. And then they bring up some shit about, oh, well, do you know who built the first rocket that that sent them to the moon, the first spaceship that sent them to the moon? No, but you know who Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin are, because they were the ones who got the fame. So it's like, okay, to the point where it goes against Reed's character. Literally, when he has that conversation with Sue in the library, he's like, oh, what, do you have me figured out? She's like, yeah, everybody always told you were wrong, or you were stupid, or you weren't doing what you're supposed to do or yada yada. Everybody told you no, and you want to be famous. And he's like, well, no, you're wrong. I don't want to be famous. I just want my work to make a difference.
Nope.
What happened to that?
He got drunk
Reed?
for the first time in his life.
Yeah. I did think that was a funny little edit or a little cut when he's like, what does he say? Ethanol kills brain cells, and then it harsh cuts to them already drunk.
So he has the urge to call Ben up drunk and say, hey, I need you to come with me because you've been my wingman since day one. And they don't bring Sue. They just leave her ass there.
Yeah, Sue, the one who like actually like helped build this thing. But yeah, call your fucking buddy who works at the junkyard. You fucking idiot.
When that happened, I was like, oh, how does Sue get her powers? Because this is my first time seeing it, so I was like, I wonder how this plays out.
Oh well, dude, when he called Ben, that was when I remembered that Ben was in this movie. Because I was like, oh, we haven't seen him for the last half hour, which is funny because then Doctor Doom, once they go into this, what do they end up calling it? Planet Zero. Yeah, so they end up calling this different dimension Planet Zero, and they go in there, and shit goes completely wrong. This is where they all get their powers. I guess lucky for Sue, she got her powers even though she didn't have to go to the different dimension. She didn't get to go on that trip to Planet Zero. But they all get blasted. Johnny gets his fire powers. Victor, I don't know what powers Victor gets.
I wanted to ask you, because you definitely know like way more about Doom than I do. And I remember when I looked up his character, I was looking up like what are his abilities, because they're definitely not fully explored in Tim's stories. But it says that he has black magic. I was reading, right?
Yes. So the way I best describe Doctor Doom is how I described him in our last episode, where essentially he is like he has the intellect of like a Reed Richards or a Tony Stark. And he has the magic abilities of a Doctor Strange. So he kind of blends technology and magic together.
So were his abilities in this movie like too far-fetched? Like is that kind of like can Doctor Doom do stuff like that where it's like telepathically he?
What is he? No, that's not completely beyond his powers. To me, it's how he gets the fucking powers in this movie.
But I'm saying like, listen, I am lazily playing devil's advocate here, but do you like that he's a little bit more, he seems a little bit more powerful than him in like the previous ones? I mean, obviously he's like fucking, but it's how they play it out. It doesn't make sense in the later scenes, which as we progress in this movie, I'll talk more about it.
Well, it's to your question. Theoretically, I like the idea of making Doctor Doom more powerful because, as I have described him in the past, he is an Avengers level threat. In the last episode, I highlighted one of my favorite Fantastic Four comics. Fantastic Four Life Story came out a couple of years ago. Really cool. If you guys didn't check out the last episode and you're listening to this one, really great. If you want to get into Fantastic Four, it's actually a really cool starting point because it's a 6-issue run where it starts in the 60s and you see the characters age in real time, and each issue takes place in a new decade. So you got 60s, 70s, all the way up to the 2010s, which is really cool. But in that, the first time Doctor Doom unveils himself to the world, he goes to a summit of heroes and incapacitates all of the world's best heroes. All of them. Like, everybody's there. Spider-Man, Johnny Storm, fucking Black Panther. Like, all of these really powerful characters are there, and Doctor Doom just fucks them up, and it's awesome. And yes, I understand what you're saying, where he is a little bit more powerful than this than he is portrayed in the Tim Story films. However, to answer your question fully, and this will answer any questions you have going forward about my thoughts on this movie, I don't like a single fucking thing in this movie, Josh. There's not one fucking thing that I enjoy in this movie.
Let me ask you about this scene, because I think this scene I could maybe defend a little bit. This is a little bit of devil's advocate.
Well, you're wrong, but okay, go for it.
Do you like the scene at all when he's like walking through the hallway? When he like no, not at all. It didn't kind of
no, because it looks like shit.
Visually,
there's no creative.
Visually, it looks like shit.
Yeah. Okay. So there you go.
But do you like?
No, I don't just like him. I don't like him just walking through corridors like telepathically killing people. No, I don't.
It kind of not as creatively. It kind of did remind me of like a horror-esque scene from Spider-Man 2, like that dark kind of like horror type scene.
And maybe if it was shot well and it was directed well, like Sam Raimi directed that hospital scene with Doc Ock in Spider-Man 2, maybe if that it had any visual prowess or any like personality or flair in the filmmaking, maybe. You know what? In Chronicle, there are so many cool scenes where once the main character of that film, Andrew, played by Dane DeHaan, where he learns to telepathically lift the camera. So the second half of that movie, you don't need someone holding the camera. He just, he elevates it with his mind using powers. There's some really cool creative shots in that movie with that. If they had done like a really cool, interesting like oneer in that scene where it's just Doom walking around, just killing all these people, and it's all done in like one seamless long take, that would have been something.
It's like a tracking shot behind him, and it's just one shot, and you see like it kind of like.
But it's just a couple of seconds. It's just a couple of seconds. It's not like give me like a 2-minute long oneer. Like give me something like in Boogie Nights where you're working your way through the party on New Year's Eve, but with Doctor Doom, and he's just dismantling all these people.
I thought it was a longer shot because it is in one shot where it's like the one guy gets like splattered on the wall as he's like walking, and the lights are like kind of like flickering with like each one. Like it's not. I think that was like one of the better parts of the movie, and it's like in a sea of nothing. It's like, and I'm really
it's cat shit versus dog shit.
I'm nitpicking one like 15 to 20 second moment in the movie, but I didn't like the dark tone in this movie because it didn't work for me. But that part, it's kind of like how I felt with Spider-Man 2. That's a very random, like scary scene in that movie. But
I don't think so.
Really?
I don't think so because I think in Spider-Man 1 and 2 that Raimi has a couple of scenes that are directed the way you would direct a horror scene.
Spider-Man 2 only has
that's
that.
Not even.
There's not like another horror scene in that movie.
Trying to think Spider-Man 2.
Like that's the movie. That's the scene that stands out. But it's good. It works.
Yeah. I guess I'm more thinking of like Green Goblin scenes in the.
I'm just talking about the
one
movie, like Spider-Man 2, as just its own movie.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. Well, that's not even to I guess if we are playing devil's advocate, to not even to say that like this movie doesn't have horror scenes. We talked about that like kind of body horror approach with especially like Reed's character with the kind of the stretching, that scene when he first wakes up it is meant to be kind of like a horror scene. But again, the issue in this movie is just there's no momentum. Mm-hmm. There's no pacing. There's no build up. There's no kind of leading into this climax or anything. And again, I just don't care at that point. That scene happens so late in the film that, sure, maybe it's not the worst scene in the movie. I'm not going to say it's a good scene, but it's not the worst scene in the movie. But very similar to Ben Grimm / The Thing in this movie, where he just disappears for a huge portion. Once they go to the different dimension, Planet Zero or whatever they call it, once they go there and they come back with all their powers and Reed Richards goes on the run, you get that 1 year later thing. You don't see Doctor Doom for 20 minutes, 25 plus minutes. He has such you can't even call him the villain of this movie because he is in it for so little amount of time. At the very least, from the second, Doctor Doom / Victor enters the movie in the Tim Story movie, it is very clear that this guy is a villain-esque character. And while they try to do like a shitty attempt at the whole Green Goblin, Norman Osborn story from that first Raimi Spider-Man movie, just in a much, much worse fashion, he's just such a non-presence in this movie. And so I don't even care that he's a little bit more powerful than what we got with the Julian McMahon version in the Tim Story movies. He is so boring in this movie. His design is fucking terrible. I know. I remember when the performance trailer came out, is not there.
And he does the head turn, and I was just like, and then you see like some set pictures, and I was just like, no way. It was like the Joker when Suicide Squad was coming out, and like I thought it was I think that maybe because I like I'm a little bit more like I know a little bit more about the like Joker as more than I do Doctor Doom. Like I just know more about the comics and stuff like that. So like when I saw that, it was like a big shock. Whereas like I saw Doctor Doom, I knew he looked terrible because I know what he looks like. But which one did you think was worse when they first like released like those pictures?
Between Jared Leto's Joker and this.
That's tough.
That's
I think
tough.
I was more
I'm
angry.
biased. I'm biased because I like Joker. I think he's fine. I think Joker's a little overhyped, but I'm like a huge Doctor Doom fan, and a huge MF Doom fan. To which I swear to God, if they don't use one MF Doom song for the new Doctor Doom in any of his appearances, I'm gonna be pissed. Marvel, Kevin Feige, please. For some reason, if this gets back to
What
you,
if it plays?
just use one MF.
What if it plays
Doom
in the
song.
end credits?
Just one.
What if it plays in the end credits?
Yeah, I'd be fine
Okay.
with that. If Avengers Doomsday ended with like all caps or Rhinestone Cowboy by MF Doom, or even Rhymes Like Dimes, dude, I'd be so a 10 out of 10 movie, easily 10 out of 10. Actually, dude, imagine the first time Doctor Doom appears in the MCU, whether it's Fantastic Four First Steps or Avengers Doomsday or some other project. I have no fucking idea. But but imagine if he arrives and all you hear is MF Doom in the background go, just remember all caps when you spell the man's name. Dude, I would lose
Wait,
my shit if that
Is
happened.
it supposed to be RDJ in First Steps if he is in it, or is it a different it would be a different actor, right? Because that's like a separate.
No, it'll probably be RDJ.
Oh, okay, so you think his first appearance could be that?
Okay, so I want to throw this out there now for the listeners because we've already lent our hands, guys. We are recording this in 2 separate sessions.
Oh, yeah.
We are recording. We already lent our hand. We already said, because we already talked about how we don't know what
Yeah.
First Steps is like. So we have already mentioned on this podcast, the only way that this podcast can work with our schedules is if we bank episodes ahead of time. And we wanted to include Fantastic Four First Steps in this series. So the way that we're doing this is we are recording this right now, a couple weeks ahead of things, actually pretty far out from Fantastic Four First Steps. And then we're going to go see that movie and then come back, record it, and then stitch the two together. So, with that in mind, why don't we, at the end of this discussion, we'll just give our score now for this one, and then we'll give we'll change it up a little bit, but just for this
that's fine.
episode. But yeah, so this is my theory, and cut to our next discussion where I'm completely wrong. I think that Galactus destroys the entire planet in the new Fantastic Four movie.
Yeah, I saw a couple people like dissecting the trailer. I saw some guys say that too.
I think, and the reason too that I have recommended Fantastic Four Life Story in both this and the previous episode, not only just because it's one of my favorite Fantastic Four comics and it's a really good starting point for people if you're trying to get in, like I said, but it also seems like the new Fantastic Four movie is borrowing heavily from Fantastic Four Life Story, because what happens in that is in the 60s when the characters go up to space and they get hit by the rays, Reed Richards is given a vision of Galactus coming to Earth to destroy it. And it's almost seen as if like Reed going up there and getting those powers in space sends like almost a beacon out to Galactus. And it seems like from the most recent Fantastic Four First Steps trailer that is the route that they are going, that when they go up and get their powers, that it almost sends like out a signal, or Galactus becomes aware of Earth and is now headed towards it to devour it. And because this movie features, I think her name, I always forget how to pronounce it, Shala Bal, female Silver Surfer. She plays Norrin Rad's love interest in the comics. They are both Silver Surfers, but just in different, realities and whatnot. They're going with the female Silver Surfer version. And I think the biggest reason is that I think that most of this movie, Reed Richards and the Fantastic Four spend in preparation for Galactus's arrival. You see that scene in the trailer with Silver Surfer. She arrives and she even says like, hey, Galactus is coming, prepare, say your goodbyes. Which is very similar to the Fantastic Four Life Story comic, to where I think it's in the 80s or 90s, Norrin Rad, aka Silver Surfer, shows up and is like, hey, Galactus is coming in 10 years. You have 10 years to plan for this. And I don't think they're going to do 10 years in the movie. Maybe they will. But either way, I think that movie ends with Galactus devouring Earth and the Fantastic Four escaping to the main MCU timeline, the one that like all of our current MCU films kind of take place in. And I think that's how they kind of end up in our timeline. So yeah, that's kind of my prediction for the movie. So we'll see how it plays out. You know, that very well could not be at all what they're going for, but either way. But I don't know. Back to this movie. I don't know. The one thing I wanted to ask you, because I thought it was pretty boring and super anticlimactic. But how did you particularly feel about the final fight with Doom on Planet
I fucking
Zero?
hated it. I hate the only thing I liked, the only like small moment I liked where I felt like they had a little teamwork going was when Sue entraps the fireball at Doctor Doom. I did like that part. Yes. That's the only thing I liked in the fight.
My issue with that is they kind of already did something similar to that, right? Like in the first Fantastic Four movie, that's how they defeat Doom. Johnny does like a fire swirl and Sue traps it with her force field. Yeah, so it's just like a kind of retread of that.
Dude, I have a note here. Like, we just saw Doom exploding heads so effortlessly, but in this fight with actual people that have superpowers, he just opts for a quick choke around the neck. Not even an attempt to like use his magical powers that he just like showed us that he has. There's nothing, and it ends so quick. He just gets he gets.
It's like a 5-minute fight,
and he just gets hit with the Kilometer Time punch into the beam of light.
I love when I love Reed's little pep talk, or a little pregame fight or pre-fight speech. Stumbling over my words here, but I love it because they're all getting their ass kicked by Doom, and I think it's the Thing. He's like, we can't beat him. He's stronger than all of us, or he's stronger than any of us. And Reed goes, yeah, but he's not stronger than all of us.
I have a note. I said, like, why does it take a genius to figure that out? Why is like Ben just trying to like, he's like, yeah, we can't beat him one-on-one. You guys are all together. How do you not like? Why is like I don't need the genius to tell me, hey, let's team up. Maybe that'll get him. Like, it's like no one thought.
I think the vibe that
no one thought that all of us are powerful together. You know, except Reed, the smart guy.
I don't know. I also really, really hated the CGI for the Human Torch in this movie. I don't know why, but the way that the flames were animated and just like the contrast and how cartoonishly bright the orange flames were in contrast with how dark tonally the movie was, it just made Johnny Storm look really, really artificial anytime that he did his little flame on thing.
Dude, his flame on. Like, that just like told me, all right, we're just getting boxes checked here. Like, you don't even I don't know. Just don't even have to say it.
Dude, his half-assed flame on. I wrote down one of the worst line deliveries is when they first go to the Planet Zero, when it's just the four of them without Sue, because, you know, I guess fuck women in their minds, I guess. When they get there and Ben is like off doing something, and you just get Miles Teller in the most like half-assed line delivery go, hey Ben, come over here. You got to see this. It was so like, oh my God, it was so bad. And like, it's just, again, like every time they deliver dialogue in this movie, I'm not sure if it was the direction or just because of the dialogue that they were given, but it just every time all I could see was these people do not want to be here. They are here to collect.
That's why
paycheck.
Josh isn't going to convince me that my cut was so much better. It would have had such great reviews. Dude, no, none of these people wanted to work for you. So like, no, I don't think that like your cut was insanely better. Maybe it was a little better. I don't know, but.
So the biggest differences for I guess what Josh Trank has come out and said about his movie was that originally it was almost a 2 hour and 20-minute film, which is more in line with your modern superhero film. A lot of them do eclipse that 2 hour, and apparently the studio had cut 3 major action sequences. And we may have harped on how the first movie had the Tim Story first movie had like a severe lack of action happening in the movie for a superhero film. This one
has none.
What do you get? You get the final fight, and you get Doom walking around, and you get a couple of like TV footage shots of the Thing because they turn him into a war criminal. and the Thing is like just murdering people.
How did you feel?
Like with
how
ease.
did you feel about? I mean, I know how you felt, but I want to hear how you felt about the kill count they had on the TV screen for Ben.
It's like over 100,
No,
right?
it said 43, but still a kill count.
Yeah, dude, they turn him into a fucking full-on war criminal. And part of the plot is they're on the verge of turning Johnny Storm into a war criminal too.
I guess
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, so this is not me really defending it, but I buy into them not wanting these powers because of the government trying to like exploit them, I guess, use them as like weapons.
Yeah,
I think that's a decent idea to bring this to fit like a darker tone, and I buy them that's why they're trying to like rid themselves of the powers more so than I buy into the Tim Story ones, but none of it just doesn't work. Like, you can have ideas, your execution is just horrible, you know.
Yeah.
Like,
the execution's terrible, and personally, I get what you're saying where it would work with like the darker themes of this movie, but to me, it's just, I'm so sick of that trope in not just superhero movies, but in movies in general, where it's like a character has these abilities or is gifted these abilities or powers, or whether it's like fucking E.T. and they find some extraterrestrial thing, anything that's like otherworldly, I guess, or out of the norm, and it's like, oh, now the government is the villain. It just feels like a very like tired out trope in a lot of just blockbusters where it's like, I get it, government bad, do something
it's a
interesting
lot of
with
times
it,
just
and
very
they really
boring. It's just
don't.
very boring when they're
Yeah.
like the main antagonists. You get those like even here, you get those boring the conference room scenes, and I'm just like, oh my God, man, this is dragging so much. They're like, they rush the year jump that they give you all of a sudden. I wasn't expecting that, and they're like, this is what these guys have been up to the last year on the TV screen in a conference meeting, and I'm just like, dude, I don't need this. These guys are so uninteresting. They're not like I don't know. It's just
You have it's not even like the movie is miscast. Michael B. Jordan is a very charismatic actor. A lot of the characters that he excels at are characters that are a little arrogant, a little overly confident, a little bit, like douchey in a way. He plays that role very well. That's Johnny Storm. But in this movie, he just seems like an asshole.
yeah.
Miles Teller in Whiplash is playing a character who is overly obsessed with his passion and his work. That is Reed Richards to a fucking T. And you don't get any of that in this movie. It's like you had the actors to create something, and because you wanted to make some dark, edgy movie, to which I don't even know if you read this, but I think it was Kate Mara wanted to read the Fantastic Four comics to understand the characters and the story a little bit better. And Josh Trank specifically told all of the cast not to read any Fantastic Four comics because this was an original movie with an original story.
Just like, fuck off then. Don't be like, I don't know, man. Just fuck off. I hate this guy. I really do. Like, he is so fucking arrogant and just oh man. I have a couple notes here. They're gonna be quick notes. I've just like me just
I'm pretty much wrapped up with mine.
I wrote Johnny has a flame helmet when he's welding in the lab.
Oh, there's also a little, did you catch it in his, I think it's in his bedroom or something, or maybe it's a poster, maybe it's at his workstation or something, I forget exactly where, but you see a little poster, and it's that one little item from Super Mario Bros. That when you do it, it gives Mario flame powers.
The fire flower was in his car. I thought it was just like a little like
that's what it is. It's in his car.
Which
my bad,
I
my
like
bad.
that a little bit more than the stupid flame helmet, whatever. As they're
fire.
about to die on Planet Zero, and Sue comes in and they're like saying like get us the fuck home. Her next line is, Johnny, do you have any idea how much trouble you're in? I could not believe it. I was like, what?
Yeah.
What is that? What is it? What are you talking about? They're about to die.
Like, your brother is about to
You're talking
die,
about him,
so like
him
maybe
getting grounded again.
Maybe save the fucking big sister speech for
What the hell else?
for some other time.
Johnny, when he's talking to his dad, he says to his dad that you're the one that got me here in the first place, like blaming him for his powers. And I'm just like, oh, something tells me you were the one that chose to go to Planet Zero. on your own after drinking. Like, your
Yeah.
dad has nothing to do with that. He had you come in here to like build the shit, not go there. So no, that's on you, buddy.
I have a quick little thing. You ever look at the poster of this movie?
Oh yes. Don't know when that happens.
Maybe that was one of the 3 big action scenes that got cut.
Yeah, it looks like Man of Steel, like behind them. It kind of just looks like that.
I hate Man of Steel.
I bet you love it compared to this. Because I do. Man, do I.
It's a
no
toss-up.
way. No way.
It is unequivocally a better movie. Like, I'm not saying it's not, but my hatred for Zack Snyder movies is so rooted in me at this point.
Let's see.
I'm fully biased, 100%.
Where does Victor get his cloak on Planet Zero?
Dude, no, I had that exact same question. I was like, okay, he's got the cloak. Wait, at first I was like, did he like turn his suit into a cloak? But then I was like, wait, no, that doesn't make any fucking sense.
Even if it did, because his suit is infused in his body. That's what happened to him. So
yeah,
he just gets
I
a
don't
cloak
know.
on Planet Zero. They must have some fabric there. I don't know.
Yeah.
I like that he brings it with him.
I
Not
have one-
actually. Like I like that he like when he's like, yeah, I gotta grab this thing, like just to suit his image.
Yeah. Need my cloak back. Got to go back to my
And it's just a hood.
destroyed world.
It's just a
full of
hood and like
nothingness.
a couple like lines of fabric. It's not even like a. It's so lazy.
Yeah,
it's just
yeah,
such a lazy outfit.
It looks like a makeshift Doom costume, like a teenager would make.
Do I even have?
Oh, I wrote one of my notes. Yeah, why show an actual scene of them bonding when you could just montage it? As Josh said, 45 minutes into the movie is when they get their powers. Yeah. And in that 45 minutes, they do not build the relationship or dynamic or friendship or familial elements into these characters at
and then
all.
It's 10 minutes.
It's
10 minutes after the 45 of them just like locked up, like getting tested on, and like nothing has happened. They're like, they're just running tests on them. And then Reed runs away and it's a year jump. And now you're an hour in the movie at the year jump. And you're just like, when? Like, does this...
Speaking of that, I did like I'm going back on my notes. One thing, and it's just because it's a comic thing, I like that Reed can change his face shape because that's something he can do in the comics.
Does that make him like he can speak Spanish fluently? Like, you're not like, he was speaking Spanish, I think.
Okay, well that is unexplainable.
Yeah, and now
he is very smart though, so I could buy that he could learn a language pretty quickly. He is literally the smartest person on Earth.
Couldn't tell if they were like saying, oh, because he can change into this person, he has the ability. Like, that's what I couldn't tell if that's what it was like trying to like tell me.
Maybe. I don't know. I don't think this movie knows what it's trying to tell people. I have one last final sentiment, but so continue whatever you have, and then I have one last thing.
Oh, I have one last note. Well, one and a half, really. I just have Johnny all of a sudden has facial hair at the end. But there's no... If I miss it, tell me. There's no Johnny Ben banter in this movie, right? There's like none of that. I don't even think they talk in this movie at all. And then the very end, he's just insanely mean to Ben when they're coming up with a name, and he just says
the worst scene of the movie.
Yeah, and he's just like, how about two guys, a girl, and the thing that nobody wants? And I'm like, Johnny, why? Where did this come from? You guys never did. First off, that's not even playful banter that I'm used to between Ben and Johnny, and I've never seen you guys speak. So why are you being a fucking asshole in the last scene of the movie to Ben?
It's
so mean.
It's not playful banter. It's just mean, like you said. It's just that is like such a rude thing to say. My God, yeah. That was okay. So I guess I have two final things then. Just kind of like an actual note on that, and then it's just like my final sentiment on this movie, and then I'm good to wrap things up. But so it's that final scene, and it's just it goes back to what you had brought up earlier, where you had said that like it just feels like they're checking boxes in this movie, and that is exactly what that final scene felt like, where it was like, oh guys, oh shit, we didn't give them a name yet, and then you have that final scene, and it's just Miles Teller being like, you know what, I think we should have a name, and she was like, why? And he's like, well, you know, we're a team, and there's 4 of us, so we should have a name. And then that's when you get that little bullshit line from Johnny making fun of Ben. And then they have like some Miles Teller and the Thing. I love how I'm just switching character and actor names, but Reed and Ben, they have this little exchange where he's like, "Can you imagine, in your basement? Now we're out here. Like, it's fantastic." And Miles goes, "Wait, what
Say
was
it again.
Say it again? It's fantastic. All right, guys, I think I got it." And then
Dude,
the movie just fucking ends.
He just says, "Yes, it is. Okay, I have it. Are you ready?" he preps them. He says, "Ready?"
This was the same year that Avengers Age of Ultron came out, and Age of Ultron kind of ends in a similar way. Like, we never got to hear Avengers Assemble, and you think you're finally going to get it in Age of Ultron, and he says, "Avengers," and then it just
Yeah,
ends.
but somehow it's just done better in that context, I think.
Well, Age of Ultron is it's not a great movie, but it's a better movie
Yeah.
than this pile of dog shit. But no, my final sentiment is I just think this was never going to be a good movie because you had a studio that wanted to make a traditional Fantastic Four superhero blockbuster movie, and you had a more artsy director who wanted to make a dark, grim.
Hey, Grim.
Jesus. He wanted to make like a dark, filled with despair movie, and I think that whole thing with Victor, his dialogue about how humans are destroying Earth, I think you're supposed to resonate with that a little bit, and you're supposed to like kind of side with Victor a little bit to where it's like, oh yeah, humans are destroying Earth, which, yes, true, not denying that. But I don't know, his whole motivation just kind of seemed rooted in that, like, oh, like the world is full of. He's like, what's the character in Fear Street that we hated? Dina. He's like Dina in every scene. He's just like full of gloom and just everything is fucked, and it just. I think he was trying to like kind of explore these themes, but like doing it in a Fantastic Four movie that like you're also trying to like include with like body horror, and like ultimately the government is a villain in this too. So it's there's so many like mixed tonal messages in this movie. The film is shot like shit. It looks like garbage. The VFX are not good. The whole Planet Zero that they go to is just like the most boring, drab looking kind of world. Like, you could have done something a little bit interesting, like, oh cool, there's a bunch of green energy, oh, Doctor Doom is green, oh, we got something here. Fuck off. Like, everything is just from just like, you had the right cast, but you didn't do anything with them. You had the makings, and you just did nothing with it.
Where did the money go? Did it go to the cast? Like,
the cast had to have been expensive. It's clear. I mean, I think that whole Planet Zero, even though I hate the design, it looks like they probably spent a good amount of their VFX budget on that.
What's with the overplayed blue beam of light in the sky?
Well, we can't even criticize this movie for that. That is look at like any superhero movie in the 2010s, and I guarantee there's a fucking blue beam of light. I think there's one in Man of Steel.
I just hate that this movie has it too, because like it's
just another fucking thing.
But yeah, this movie it tries to be dark, and definitely is dark, but it tries to be like almost insightful, but it just comes off cringy, and like it's just overly edgy. It's just edgy. It's
not even like fun edgy. It's just fucking boring.
Horrible.
It is such a boring fucking movie. All right. Well, like we said, guys, this is a 2-movie episode. We are going to be talking about Fantastic Four Fantastic Four First Steps, not Next Steps. Maybe that'll be the sequel. But we're going to be talking about Fantastic Four First Steps in the next discussion, which we have not seen yet. And I'm very much looking forward to it. I'm not a big MCU guy these days, but I am a big Fantastic Four fan. I like the cast a lot. I'm very excited to see what they do with it. And at the very least, hopefully we get a good version of Galactus. I've always wanted to see a good big screen adaptation of Galactus. So hopefully they can at least make do on that promise. Either way, do you want to get into ratings for this movie, and then we'll I guess just like segue, and you guys will catch us a couple months from now. Yeah. So do you want to start, or would you like
No,
me
yeah,
to
I
go
could
first?
I could start. I
Yeah,
think
go
I'm
for it.
gonna. Phew, I'm gonna give this movie a 1.3.
All right, that's pretty good. That's low. That's a low score. Uh, I'm gonna give Fant4stic 2015 a 0.5 out of 10. This is this is by far and away my least favorite superhero movie of all time. It's not even a contest. Maybe a close second is Batman v Superman, but this is up there because not only is it just fucking terrible, the acting is not good. Not that it's always the actor's fault. I think the direction wasn't there. There's no vision in this movie, and I guess whatever vision there was that Josh Trank had, the studio kind of butchered it and Frankenstein monstered this motherfucker. So you don't even get, if this was just bad and boring, but at least had a clear, distinct vision from the director that got carried out, I could at least maybe give it some merit. But the studio butchered it. Josh Trank was just not the right person to direct this movie. The things that he was trying to go for and explore just do not fit the Fantastic Four, and the way that they executed those attempts just completely fell flat in every sense of the word. So yeah, 0.5. I think that is my lowest rating of the podcast so far.
I can't remember what yours was for Black Christmas 2019.
I don't think I don't know if I've gone below
I
a
thought you
1.
did. Maybe you didn't. I think I've gone below 1 a couple times.
You have a couple of times. I don't think I've gone below a 1. So if that is any testament to how I feel about this movie,
Yeah,
I think that I didn't even give any 50 Shades of Grey movie below a 1.
Yeah, I
and
can't
that
remember
is
if I
saying
did.
something.
I
Those are-
might have.
I don't think you did. I think you went at least a little
Wow.
above a 1.
Yeah, I'm with you though. I think this might be my least favorite superhero movie. I can't.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
no enjoyment in this. Not a shred of fun. All right. Well, I guess that's really it for this discussion, guys. We are going to cut to a short commercial
Very short.
break, and then very short. We're time travelers. No, when we come back from the quick commercial break, we'll be discussing Fantastic Four First Steps. So
Yeah, I'm gonna go pee.
Yeah. All right. Bam. We did a little time travel, folks. It won't seem like it to you, but we we did a little time travel. We are, of course, continuing this episode with Fantastic Four First Steps, the first Fantastic Four movie set inside of the Marvel Cinematic Universe and under the direction of Disney instead of Fox, since those rights were sold just a couple years ago. It won't seem like it to you guys because we just transitioned, but we actually recorded Fant4stic, the previous part of this discussion, way back. It's got to be a couple months. I don't know exactly when, but
Yeah, like over 3 months. I feel a little bit older. I don't know about you.
yeah, that time travel it did. I think I aged 15 years in the span of those couple seconds.
Jesus.
Somebody call up Reed Richards. I'm the smartest man in the universe now. But yeah, so we are, of course, continuing the conversation and closing out our Fantastic Four series. Of course, again, talking about Fantastic Four First Steps, released, of course, in 2025. And I think this is the first new release we're talking about on the podcast, right? Like, this is the first
Sure is.
newer movie, so we're a little fresher on things. Haven't had time for it to soak into the public discourse too much yet. But I'll set the stage, and then we can get right into giving our thoughts. And I feel like it's self-explanatory, but the behind-the-scenes trivia for this one might be a little light, as the movie came out 4 days ago. But Fantastic Four First Steps, released in 2025, directed by Matt Shakman, budget of 200 mil, and hard to go with the box office because, again, it was just released a couple days ago, but I did a little search earlier. It is currently sitting at around 106.2 mil. We are recording on a Sunday. We both saw the movie yesterday, Saturday. Josh saw it at very early hours, apparently.
Oh, it was so nice. 9 a.m. start time, so I got there at like 8:45.
How packed was your theater?
Not that packed. I mean, I was able to find a seat in the middle. That was the only row. It was like a line of like just going up the middle row of the whole stadium. And then it was like probably not even a third full, maybe a quarter. Maybe a third. I don't know, because I didn't look at it when like I got tickets early in the week, so it was like probably, it wasn't that full then. Probably a third. I would say a third full.
Yeah, mine, I saw it not too much later in the day. I saw a 12:50 showing at my local Cinemark, and there was a decent amount of people. It was kind of hard to compare and contrast because I saw Superman opening Thursday night, IMAX screening, really nice theater. We drove like an hour away into Jersey. So it was hard to like compare that because that like literally every seat was taken. So I'm kind of curious how like a 7 o'clock showing at a more popular theater would have looked like for Fantastic Four, but
oh, it stunk. It stunk. I couldn't. That's why I went in the morning, because I was looking for like an evening, even afternoon, and they were. Well, all the good seats were taken. I'm not sitting all the way on the side. I'm not sitting in the second row. So.
If you sit in the front row, you need to be checked into a psych ward, because
I did that for I did that like recently, actually, when I saw A Complete Unknown. It sucked. And I don't know why I saw it. I think that was the last day it was showing. And that's when I was like, I want to see all the Best Picture nominees. And that was like, why the hell was it the front row? It wasn't even that. Maybe it was packed. It was just it was a small theater. That's why. So it was packed. Front.
I was gonna say, why is A Complete Unknown packed? Speaking of like superhero characters, that director James Mangold, he's supposedly directing the Swamp Thing movie for the new James Gunn-led DCU. So should be kind of interesting. He also did Ford v Ferrari and Logan. And I forget what that one biopic in the 2000s was, the Johnny Cash one, I think, Walk the Line.
Walk the Line, yeah.
Yeah. So, decent track record there. But back to Fantastic Four First Steps. Rotten Tomatoes score currently sitting at an 87% critic score and a 93% audience score. So pretty damn good reviews all around. So that's nice to see for a Fantastic Four movie, as we've kind of highlighted on this episode and the previous one. Not the best track record for Fantastic Four movies in the world of cinema. Not the most prominent place in cinematic history, outside of maybe the abomination that was Fant4stic and just all of the crazy behind-the-scenes stories that came along with that film. But I'll read the IMDb synopsis for the plot, and then we will get right into our discussion of this movie. Forced to balance their roles as heroes with the strength of their family bond, the Fantastic Four must defend Earth from a ravenous space god called Galactus and his enigmatic herald, Silver Surfer. Pretty good overview, I guess.
Do you miss characters. The cosmic clouds?
No.
How are you? So all right. So Jake is he's more of the expert on the comics, so he's going to be the guide of comparing to what he likes with the comics and see if it lines up, or what he was looking for that he might not have gotten. I don't know. I'm kind of intrigued to see, because I want to read some of these Fantastic Four comics more. I want to read comics in general. I haven't grown up doing that. So
my biggest recommendation is just get the Marvel Unlimited app. It is, I think, like $9.99 a month if you can squeeze that out of your budget, and you get access to just thousands upon thousands of comics. Very easy to pick up whenever you want and read them. I had to delete it recently just because I was like, I need those $10 a month. But I had it for a while. I was reading a lot of X-Men comics a couple months back. The Chris Claremont run, which is a really great X-Men run if anyone's looking at getting started with the X-Men. But yeah, so let's give because again, this is the first newer movie we're talking about, so let's kind of structure this, I guess, a little bit differently. But let's just start with our overview thoughts. Let's not give a spoiler yet because it is a newer film, so let's not spoil anything yet, but just our surface level overview. Yeah, surface level overview thoughts. I'd like to hear you first. Overall, what you thought of the movie. I'll give my opinions, and then we'll enter spoiler territory. But what did you think about the movie? Kind of surface level thoughts.
So, my morning Saturday was pretty delightful, to say the least. My expectations were pretty high for this, so I was very nervous. It delivered for me in a lot of areas. From the trailers, I was really looking forward to seeing the production of it. I was very intrigued with, as many people were, by the style, the 60s retro futuristic style. I think they nailed that, and I think that's what a lot of people are coming from this film really loving. I haven't seen one person really disagree on that. So I think there's a very great sense of world around them that we haven't really been getting in Marvel movies. So I think it stands out alone just in that. But I was very pleased by all four of these guys. Their unit together, I think it really does feel like they are a family. That's what Jake has told me. Like you get that this is Marvel's first family, and you don't really get that in the previous films. They kind of feel a little like disjointed. Here you get like just many elements where there is a lovable sense of like belonging with them, and there is the playful banter between, like, say, Johnny and Ben that you get. So I don't know. I really enjoyed their chemistry. I thought it was really well done. I'm gonna wait on some criticisms as we move forward, but overall, the movie went very fast. It's under 2 hours. It's an hour 55 including credits, and it doesn't feel like it didn't really feel like it dragged anywhere for me. So it was very crisp watch, very fun, and it was pretty funny. You know, I think a lot of Marvel movies kind of lost their sense of comedy. But there's been a couple this year, Thunderbolts included, where I think they're kind of getting it back, where it doesn't feel out of place all the time. So just a fun watch overall. And I came out just feeling like satisfied, not necessarily blown away by most things, but I was very satisfied and delighted by this movie.
All right, well, I'm rather jealous. I want to start off by saying, for my surface level overview thoughts on this movie before getting into spoiler territory, because a lot of, I guess, my issues with the film are on the spoiler end of things. I liked this movie. I don't want people to think that I hated this film or that I had a miserable experience watching it. It did ruin my Saturday. Not in the way that I was like, holy shit, what a terrible movie. Maybe my expectations were too high. Maybe my hope and optimism was too high coming off the tails of Thunderbolts, which I really, really enjoyed, or Superman, which I really, really loved. So maybe I was just in a place where I wanted too much out of this Fantastic Four movie. Maybe I should have just gone in expecting your typical run-of-the-mill MCU movie, which is, I think, what we ended up kind of getting. And I'll get more into, like, why I feel that way, but I didn't hate this movie. I think I agree with some of what Josh said in terms of this is the only Fantastic Four film that we've gotten thus far where they actually feel like a tight-knit family. Yes, you get that banter with the Thing / Ben Grimm and Johnny / Human Torch. It's so much better handled in this film than the Tim Story one or the Fant4stic, which we just discussed earlier in this episode. I just think maybe my expectations were too high, and I think that can definitely impact the way that you view a film. But there were things that I liked about it. I did, like Josh said, I did like the sort of retro futuristic aspects of the production design and the world. I have my issues with how the characters fit into that world and maybe them half-assing a little bit of that attempt at a 60s style film. But in terms of like production design, that retro futuristic look is very cool. It is very unique for Marvel and something a little bit different than what we've seen before. Just as a whole, it is an enjoyable movie. It's not one that I ever see myself rewatching or revisiting. I don't think I'll get anything out of a rewatch of this movie. which is kind of how I felt about something like Deadpool and Wolverine, where I watched it in theaters. I had a fun enough time. Never gonna probably rewatch it. No reason to. I don't see myself getting anything out of rewatching that. And that's kind of my similar thoughts with this Fantastic Four First Steps movie. I think mostly, again, we'll get into spoilers in a minute, but a lot of my issues with the movie do have to do with some of the story beats and how the film fits into the Marvel Cinematic Universe as a whole and its place in Marvel. And I think that is also an issue I have, is it's hard to look at this as just a standalone superhero movie, because this is the 37th or 38th MCU entry. And so I do have to treat it like a film in that grander scheme of things. And that also lends to some of my issues. But overall, I liked it. I have my issues with it. It's not a bad movie. It's just I'm not in love with it. I wouldn't even say I really liked it. I would say I liked it. I had a fun enough time with it. Never going to rewatch it. But yeah, so those are our kind of surface level overview thoughts. Josh liked it more than I did. He felt satisfied. I wanted more out of it. And maybe that's on me for wanting too much, but I'd say now we'll get into spoilers. So spoiler warnings for Fantastic Four First Steps. I recommend it. So even though it wasn't my cup of tea and I have my issues with it, would you also recommend it to people?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So we're both recommending you guys go and see it. There's a lot worse Marvel movies. Hell, this year, Captain America Brave New World, way, way worse of a movie than Fantastic Four First Steps. So we are now going to be entering spoiler territory and talking about all the story beats and the character stuff. So let's dig right into that. The biggest issue I have with this movie, but first I want to get your thoughts on it. And I'm so torn because half of me loves part of this and the other half of me hates it. Galactus.
Okay.
How did you feel about Galactus in this film?
So, I want everyone to know that I do have some criticisms that I'm still thinking about. So I'm hoping to get some, something out of this conversation, which I always do. But I had questions. So I loved how, and maybe it's because I'm going off of the clouds. That's what I got last of Galactus.
Let's throw it out there. This is better than his depiction in Rise of the Silver Surfer. This is much better in every way, shape, and form than the space cloud.
I loved his look. I thought, I forget who voices him.
Ralph Ineson.
Good job there. I have no problem with that. I don't know much about Galactus. I haven't read the comics. He sounded... Now, I don't know if these are in the rules of him. Can he adjust how big he is?
So, yeah, in certain comics, he has the ability to change his size. So, at different points, he'll show up as the size of Godzilla, per se, which is kind of what we get in this movie. He's kind of Godzilla-sized. And then in other depictions, he's shown as being bigger and larger. I mean,
he's able to swallow the Earth whole.
Exactly. There are depictions in the comics where it's not like a metaphor like, oh, he consumes planets. Like, oh no, he literally eats planets. Like, he's that big. And then there's also comics where he is down to the size of a Thanos type character in terms of size and scale. Yeah. So it really varies.
So this is where I'm torn, because some of it just felt like I should have gotten more. I feel like this big of a threat, and I get we said spoilers, but by the end he's not. They don't really defeat him. They defeat him temporarily, which I don't mind. But the initial introduction to Galactus is very menacing. He's very threatening. I love that. I love the introduction.
Best scene in the movie, in my opinion. Best scene in the movie.
It's very scary. It's just done very well. Now, Franklin is into this mix now, where this is where my confusion happens. Galactus, I don't know if does he know about Franklin when he chooses to target Earth? What is his reasoning for target Earth? I wish we kind of got a little bit more behind his motivations. I just don't think we learn enough about him in this movie to throw us into this type of villain, which I feel like I've gotten from villains like Thanos, you know. So I don't know. I felt like there was like a very good intro to him, and then in the second to third act, maybe I guess the middle part of the movie, the second act, it seems like it gets thrown to the wayside. And so I don't know. I just don't feel like I got as much as I wanted to from Galactus in terms of, you know, what does this guy really want? He says what he wants, but I don't really know why. I don't know how much he knows. I don't know where he comes from. He's just kind of like there. And maybe I'll get that in future movies. So it didn't feel as bad to me, but it rose questions to me. So, you know, that's my initial question is what made him target Earth? Was it because he knew about Franklin, or because it seemed like he found out about Franklin when they visited him first?
Yeah.
And then that's when negotiations already said, just give me the baby. I don't even know if he wants to kill the baby. He wants to consume him. Does that mean killing him, or does it mean absorbing his power? You know, all that is kind of confused a little bit. So I felt like I got a little lack of motivation behind Galactus. I love the look of him. I love how they did that. I don't know how you would have done it if you made him very big where he can swallow Earth, because it seems like his goal, it would be very easy if he just did that.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of like torn with, is this the smartest route for someone like this? I imagine he's smart. You know, he's this like otherworldly being. So, you know, I don't know.
I kind of have similar. My issue isn't with, I guess, the motives, and I don't know. Again, there is a little bit of discrepancy with me having more background knowledge of Galactus, having read the comics, but the essentials of his motivations in this movie is he targets Earth solely because, well, he doesn't even target Earth. It's the Silver Surfer. Whoever his herald is at the time chooses planets for him to consume because he has this curse, which he says in the movie. And again, we just saw this movie yesterday, so not remembering every little story detail, like I'm not going to fault you for that, but they do say in the film that years and years ago, like eons ago, way before, because they even say in the film that he predates the existence of the universe that Earth is in. And he says before that he was just a man before being cursed with this eternal hunger. And that's like a very prominent part of Galactus, is that even though he is an antagonist, he is not a villain in the traditional sense. A villain does bad things for their own good, for their own self-righteous beliefs or whatnot. Thanos is a villain. He's trying to kill half the universe because to him, that's the way to save the universe. It's very self-righteous, whereas Galactus is almost equivalent to, like, you wouldn't say a bear is a villain, right? When a bear kills somebody, a bear is just doing what a bear does. That's kind of Galactus. He's very animalistic in that sense, where he's just trying to satisfy that cursed hunger. And so in this film, he is just targeting Earth because that's what the Silver Surfer. In this film, we get Shalabal, which we mentioned, I think, on our previous Fantastic Four episode. That was the Norrin Rad version of the Silver Surfer. In this film, we get Shalabal, who is canonically, she is the wife of Norrin Rad. So, and I really liked Silver Surfer in this film. I thought the VFX looked fantastic on her. I thought Julia Garner did. It is Julia Garner, right? That's her name. Either way, I believe she did a fantastic job with the role. The VFX looked just 1,000 times better than the 2007 film. Like, it's not even close in comparison. So that was good, because I know a lot of people, when the initial trailers came out for First Steps, they were a little worried about how her VFX would look. But that aside, once they go to visit Galactus on his ship, which me and Josh already kind of talked about that scene a little bit. Again, I think that's the best scene in the film. Like Josh said, he is very menacing. He's very intimidating, from the voice to the way that they reveal the character to just his scope and scale in that scene particularly. It's just fucking fantastic. I love we always talk about reaction shots on this podcast and how important reactions are to the emphasis of a moment or a scene or a piece of dialogue, and just the look on the Fantastic Four's face when they're in the presence of Galactus for the first time. Really, really excellent stuff. But once he is interacting with them, that's when he gets the whiff of Franklin and is able to, because of Galactus's abilities, he's able to see what Franklin is. And for anybody who's curious about Franklin, he is one of, if not the most powerful characters in all of Marvel. He is that powerful. And when Galactus gets a whiff of Franklin inside of Sue's womb, he sees this as his way out. A child that's strong enough to absorb Galactus's curse. So he would essentially try to pass on his curse of hunger to Franklin, is the gist of what the story is. And from that point on, it shifts to less of, oh, he's coming to destroy Earth, and oh, he wants Franklin, who is this unbelievably powerful being. So my issues don't really lie with that. My issues really lie in, I'd say, the last 20 to 30 minutes. Because I'm fine with Galactus being, per se, the size of Godzilla. We don't really even get Godzilla-level destruction, though.
Yeah.
He really, once he arrives on Earth, he really doesn't do that much. And there's the moment in the film where the plan is to trick Galactus into stepping on the teleportation pod, because the initial plan is they're going to try to teleport Earth to a different universe. And then Silver Surfer comes in and fucks up all their teleportation pods except for one, being the one in New York. And so then their plan shifts from using Franklin as bait because they know Galactus wants him, to trick Galactus into stepping onto this teleportation pod and teleporting Galactus away from Earth to a different universe without his ship, and he'll be stranded. That's the plan. And it gets to a point where Galactus gets sucked into this teleportation pod. And with the help of Sue, who is using her abilities, she pushes him near the teleportation pod, and then Silver Surfer, kind of very similar to the 2007 film, assists the Fantastic Four and is trying to help them and whatnot. But he gets sucked into the teleportation pod before the Silver Surfer even arrives or whatever. And at first I was like, nah, this can't be it. And I was like, this cannot be it for Galactus. And then it's not. He claws himself back through the teleportation pod, and I was like, oh, okay, this is it. This is it. Only for ultimately the same thing to happen 10 minutes later. Sue is pushing him into the thing, and then the Silver Surfer comes in and knocks him and her through the teleportation pod. Bye-bye, Galactus.
Yeah. I have written here that is a similar note that I have, because I feel like Marvel's kind of straying away from the formula a little bit. It's setting up a different kind of world. It's doing something where you don't need prior information to enjoy this film or even follow it. It's set in its own world. So I like that it's kind of it feels like just a fresh start.
Yeah.
And I like I said, visually they're doing different stuff. It's not bland anymore, and they're having good moments of character chemistry. And in that third act is where I feel like they kind of fall into that trap that they seem to be in, where it's too easy.
Yeah.
It's just too easy. And Galactus, he seems like top tier, most powerful being in Marvel. I don't know. Top 5, top 3, I don't know. But
he is one of the most impossible villains to defeat. Like,
right.
It's possible. He has been defeated in the comics. I'm not going to say he hasn't. Mm-hmm. But in terms of, like, grand level threat.
Yeah.
Now, this is the second time we said it about Rise of the Silver Surfer. And now I think we're both saying it about this one. His defeat is just too easy. It just comes too easy. And then another issue that I have is, at the very least, you go, oh, okay, they just killed Sue Storm. It took all of Sue Storm's might and strength and ability to push Galactus back to the point that it killed her. Mm-hmm. But then, no, she's back. She's alive. She gets resurrected.
Yeah. So Now, I am not by any means comparing this, like saying the first Fantastic Four is better than this in any way, really.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a little bit of Ben assisting Sue, but Sue is doing it all. There's no teamwork here, and I feel like what they just spent an hour and a half doing, building this unity, this unit between them, and to have them not come up with a plan that makes it a little bit more realistic to defeat him a little bit. It's just Sue with Ben smashing pillars so he loses his balance. Yeah. Reed's not doing anything. Johnny's not doing anything. Johnny blinds him a little bit for a second, but after that he doesn't really do anything except like make the choice to like sacrifice himself, which I like. That's a good character moment. I like that. But there had to have been a better way to incorporate their powers. Reed doesn't use his powers hardly ever in this movie, and I wish I got a little bit more of that. I was kind of frustrated by that. I also don't like that Galactus stretches him a little bit, and it's like enough to like, it's like
hurting him,
and I'm like, can't he stretch a little bit more than that? But I mean, he barely starts stretching him, and he's like already getting like, he's like in pain. But I mean, we don't get anything from them, so I just wish there was more incorporation of them to make me buy into them being able to overcome the strength of Galactus. This guy looked weak. It's not even like she's kind of just keeping him still. How, I don't even know. You don't get a sense of what his powers are in this movie. He doesn't use anything. He just looks threatening, but
yeah,
I don't know. Does he treat him like a joke too much? But when he's getting pushed, he can't push through it at all. Like, yeah. So I have that note here. You know, well, I'm not gonna say my rating for this movie, but that is some of the like critiques I had that took me out of the third act a little bit.
Yeah. No, I think the third act really starts to fall apart for me. I think, and again, it's not to say that I hated this movie. I'm just disappointed again because everything that they had said leading up to this movie, setting it in an alternate universe. Kevin Feige just a couple weeks ago saying, oh, this is Marvel's first standalone film. And then introducing a threat like Galactus and not really doing anything with it. They had the perfect opportunity, and this lends more to my criticisms as not just a Fantastic Four or a superhero movie, but as again, I forget if this is like the 37th or 38th entry in the MCU, but we're almost 40 movies deep now. And this was the perfect opportunity to have your characters lose.
Yeah.
This was the perfect opportunity. And again, I might be a hypocrite, I might be biased, but this was the perfect opportunity for the Fantastic Four for their debut movie to lose. Have Galactus win, and I think you had one of two options. Either, and they have this perfectly set up with the whole like teleportation thing and transportation setup, and I think it would have been perfect for the movie to end with them not being able to stop Galactus, and in a last-ditch effort, sending Franklin to another universe, or sending the Fantastic Four to another universe. I think two things. A, it would have added way more impact to the overall effect of this movie. And the second is that you set up some really interesting dynamics for Avengers Doomsday. I'm at the point with Marvel where I couldn't be any less interested in Avengers Doomsday. I look back to my hype and anticipation going into Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame and just how excited I was. It felt like a culmination of events going into this new Avengers movie, and we have not met Doctor Doom yet. The most you get of him is a 2-second cameo in the post-credits of this movie, where you don't even see his face or hear his voice. You just see the back of him. You see his cloak, and you see him holding his mask as he approaches Franklin Richards, who they do a 4-year time skip in the post-credit scene. So now you got a little 4-year-old Franklin, and Sue leaves, comes back, and sees Doom in her room talking to her son. That's all you get. And now he's the next big bad of the next two Avengers movies? That
Yeah.
doesn't seem right. And going back into this again, where's the stakes? Where's the impact? Like, how are you calling this a standalone Marvel film? What, just because it takes place in an alternate universe? That's the only thing that makes it standalone? To me, this outside of the retro aesthetic, what really sets this movie apart from other Marvel films?
Did he mean standalone? In what sense did he mean that? Did he like mean
I
it where
couldn't tell you.
could? I see. I take that as you can go into this with a fresh mind. Like, you don't have to do any homework to see this movie. That's what I kind of took that as.
Okay, you could make that argument for a bunch of Marvel movies. You can watch the first Guardians of the Galaxy without having seen a Marvel movie. You can watch the first Ant-Man without seeing a Marvel movie.
They no, because they tie in other things that, like Thanos is in the first Guardian, so you don't really know who that is unless you saw other Marvel movies.
That's the first Marvel movie he's really in outside of a post.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, Age of Ultron was. Yeah, because he has the end credit scene but that was a year later.
Well, he is the post-credit scene of the first Avengers, but it's a 3-second shot of him just like turning to the camera and smiling. I don't think you're going to be lost if you're watching Guardians of the Galaxy. And again, like, there's plenty of Marvel products that you can watch without having seen the rest of Marvel movies. So I don't think, and all that led me to believe when he made those comments is that, this movie is going to have an impact. I thought a couple of different things. I thought, okay, so if you have just Franklin survive, then first off, I think this movie should have spanned over a couple of decades. They're already clearly pulling from Fantastic Four life story in terms of a lot of the story beats with Galactus as the oncoming threat. You could have had it to where the Fantastic Four, by the end of the movie, you see Franklin as like a teenager, and Reed spends like years of his life dedicated to trying to stop the oncoming threat of Galactus. I think that could have been something. And then in the final act of the movie, when all hope seems lost and it looks like Galactus is destroying every and anything, have him still do that, but then have Reed pull out a last ditch effort of like, no, I had one last backup plan, and it was to teleport Franklin to a different universe. And then in Avengers Doomsday, now you bring back Pedro Pascal and the rest of the Fantastic Four, but it be a different variant of them. If you're going to do the multiverse thing, really go at it and have this Reed be very, very different than the Reed that we get in this movie. And now you have an interesting dynamic with Franklin and an alternate universe Reed, to where, maybe he's very different from the version of his dad that he knows, and this is a different kind of Reed who doesn't have a kid, so maybe he is less warm and less kind, and he's much more of that hyper-focused, hyper-fixated Reed Richards that we've seen in the comics before, and it provides a very interesting dynamic between Franklin and Reed in that next movie. Or if you do, or the other alternate thing, have the Fantastic Four and Franklin escape in the last thing, and now you have an interesting dynamic set up in Avengers Doomsday where, they let their whole universe die. And now Avengers Doomsday and Avengers Secret Wars, now it's the Fantastic Four's redemption. It's Reed's redemption. He let his universe, he let his world die, and now he's fighting to save the multiverse. That's something.
It sounds like, and I get it, like what you're saying is very valid and probably even more interesting, because I know we've talked about the trailers and we were both saying how this looks like they lose.
Yeah.
And there was like parts in the trailer where you were like saying, what if that's like Earth getting destroyed or something like that? I don't know. But it sounded like you went into this having one kind of ending written out. Do you see a world where they could have stalled Galactus, temporarily defeated him in a better way?
Yeah. You need to make Franklin a teenager. You need to make Franklin a little bit older and use Franklin to beat him.
Yeah. So there's that middle of the movie for me really kind of interrupts some of the plots that they set up. I think because I really like Silver Surfer, but she's just forgotten about. They give you the little bit of her history, and she kind of just runs away when she's presented with Johnny's like decryption of her language, which I'll buy that. I'm glad they
I
gave
like
Johnny
that
something
scene.
to do. Yeah,
I like that scene a lot.
But she just goes, and then her like redemption at the end where she sacrifices herself, it doesn't feel as earned as it could have been for me. So I liked her a lot. I just wish they kind of brought her into it a little bit instead of take her out of the movie for a whole like half hour. You know, I don't know.
See, I don't have as much of an issue with that. I'm fine with how her character arc kind of panned out because I think it's set up and it's delved into in a lot better fashion than Rise of the Silver Surfer, where we kind of harped on that movie about how Silver Surfer is a bit of a letdown. He's a nice inclusion in theory, but the Silver Surfer that we get in this film, I thought had a lot more interesting elements going on. I thought it was much less cheesy and cornballish as it kind of was in that previous, Silver Surfer movie. Whereas Shia LaBeouf in this one, I really do like how I like her dynamic with Johnny in it, and I like, again, leading into what I do like about this film, I really do enjoy all of the characters. I thought Vanessa Kirby as Sue Storm was fucking fantastic. No pun intended there, but I thought she was great. I know a lot of people were worried about Pedro Pascal as Reed, but I thought he did a really good job. I really enjoyed the guy from The Bear. I forget his full name.
Is it Eben?
Eben something.
It's a long name.
Him as Ben Grimm / The Thing, I really loved. I loved his little, not fully explored, but his little kind of dynamic with the girl from American Pie, Natasha Lyonne, who plays Jessica in the American Pie movies. I liked that. They even alluded a little bit to his Jewish origins because he's one of the most prominent Jewish superheroes, so I thought that was kind of neat. And again, we already harped on how the family dynamic was really well handled. This is the first and only Fantastic Four film where they actually feel like a tight-knit family. And it's not just the scene at the beginning of them having Sunday dinner, but it's all the little interactions with each other where, like we kind of already highlighted, where you do get that kind of, it's not even animosity, but it's like that playful brother thing with Ben and Johnny, where they do get under each other's skin, but it's more in a playful way and less of like in the Tim Story films where Johnny's just an asshole. Like Johnny is just a douchebag. I thought Joseph Quinn was much more likable in this than the Chris Evans take on the character. And Fant4stic, it's not even worth talking about because they give Michael B. Jordan nothing to work with in that film. But just as a whole, I really liked the characters in this movie, whether it was Silver Surfer, whether it was the actual Fantastic Four. Again, I really like the look and the scale and the initial menacing threat of Galactus. Like we said, Ralph Ineson does a great job with the voice work. Loved that. And you could actually tell, too, if you know what his face looks like, you can tell that there was a bit of mocap going on there. So it wasn't just like a fully CGI'd creature. You could tell there's a little bit of Ralph Ineson in that character, in that portrayal. But I think they really dropped the ball in the last 30 minutes. Maybe you're right. Maybe I am just being like a hypocrite and I went in with one ending in mind, but I just thought 38 movies into the MCU, this being set in an alternate universe, this being the last Marvel film before Avengers Doomsday, it needed to have a bigger impact as a film, as the precursor to the next big crossover movie. And like you even think about what was the preceding film before Avengers Infinity War. You had Thor Ragnarok, where a ton of stuff happens in that movie. Thor loses his hammer. Thor gets an eyeball ripped out. Odin dies in that movie. The ending of that film is Thanos' ship coming into contact with Thor and the rest of the surviving Asgardians. Asgard gets destroyed in that movie. And then you look at Fantastic Four: First Steps. Again, the last movie before Avengers Doomsday. What happens? Really, what happens? It is just so much of a cookie cutter ending. And I don't want it to sound like the last 30 minutes is the only issue I have with this film. I think it has pacing issues. We talked about this a little bit earlier today through text, but we had both kind of said, I feel like whether it was the previous episode or maybe it was during the Fant4stic discussion, but we did not need to see the origin again. We didn't need to see them going up into space, getting hit by beams of rays or whatever, and getting the powers. And I like in the first couple minutes how they do this kind of newsreel montage of the origins of the Fantastic Four. They set it during like a talk show. I think it's like the Ted Gilbert show or whatnot. And they do kind of this speed run of the origin story with these flashback scenes of the characters before they got hit with their rays. So you see Ben Grimm before he turns into the Thing. And all of that stuff was great. And I was really digging that. And then there's like a huge stylistic switch up. And they cut from the newsreel footage to just actual what the rest of the movie looks like. But it's still montaging events of the Fantastic Four taking down their prominent villains from the comics, like Mole Man, played by Paul Walter Hauser, who I think is a great casting choice for the Mole Man, but it just felt weird. It was like, okay, so why are we doing the whole newsreel footage thing for the first couple of scenes showing their history, but then you're speed running them defeating some of their most famous villains, and that just looks like normal film footage. It doesn't look like you're doing anything with that. And the stylistic switch up was weird. And on top of that, it felt very cluttered in the first like 10-15 minutes. Like, I get speed running the origin, but the first 15-20 minutes felt very just kind of boom, 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 boom. And I think again about a recent superhero film that just came out, Superman, which I think does the whole skipping the origin thing in a lot cleaner of a fashion and just kind of throws you into the story. But it felt so much more satisfying in Superman than it did in Fantastic Four. I don't know.
So I have a couple notes here and there, and these are kind of minor criticisms because I like Ben a lot in this movie. I think he's very funny.
Yeah.
And he's not so. I get this is 4 years later, so he's very well adjusted to his situation. I kind of wish you got a little bit more of that part. I feel like and maybe that comes with being having 4 years of being a rock and you're kind of just accepted it. But
yeah.
You don't get any of that sad Ben at all. Even with like his interactions with Reed. And not that I needed that. That's fine. But Ben as a whole, like they introduce him to what is it? Natasha Lyonne? Is that her name?
The actress, yeah.
Is that the actress name or is that her?
That's the actress's name. I forget the character name. It's not it's not Alicia like it is in the comics, who's like the blind woman who he falls for, but I forget her character name.
Rachel,
yeah.
Rachel Rosman. So they have this really interesting introduction to each other. I don't know if that's when they first meet, but that's it. That's all you get. And then at the end, I think they literally interact 2 times, and it's when the city is in a panic and they're all like, preparing for possible destruction, and he goes to like visit her or something like that. He says, I came here for you or something like that. There's like, it's like, oh, where was that? I wanted more of that somewhere where I could have had that make sense at the end. It's kind of like there's a payoff without any really, there's no meat to that really.
That's
they just
fair.
introduce it. So just stuff like that. I wish I got a little bit more character development for Ben. I think they kind of, and the thing is, I like how he interacts with everybody. Like, he's very enjoyable to watch, especially with Johnny. But yeah, so I kind of want a little bit more there, and that's what I'm talking about with just some of the stuff that they toss aside. They introduce something and then they toss it aside. It's not as bad with Silver Surfer because they give you a little bit to chew on, but they give you like that little hint where she says he's just a baby. Like, they give that sentimentality to her. I wish you got a little bit more of that, just a little bit, to have that moment she has at the end feel a little bit more powerful, where she she goes against like Galactus and sacrifices herself. Kind of minor stuff. It didn't really take me out of it, but just some things that kind of interrupted some character work you could have had a little stronger. Because I do think it's very strong overall in terms of me just liking everybody. Like, I have no problem with anybody. And in terms of the world that they're in, I think it looks so nice and it even feels very lived in, but I don't see them. I wish I kind of saw how I don't even know what I'm trying to say here. Like, I wanted to see more specifics with the world instead of just how it looked. you kind of like how they interact with it a little bit. I wish I just got more of that to make it feel a little bit more like kind of how Hot Fuzz does it, where you're in this very specific atmosphere. It kind of feels like that, but I don't see them interacting as much with the people or the area itself.
I don't even necessarily have issues with the world and how it's explored personally, because I do think that they actually did a decent job. I like the scene of, and I know you said that you didn't get enough of it, but I did think personally, as far as the characters go, I thought you got just enough out of each of them. I think if you try to do too much with each individual character, I think the overall film probably gets too long. I didn't want this to be a 2.5 hour long film.
Yeah.
And I like the sort of dreadful atmosphere that it sort of builds with the oncoming threat of Galactus. My issue is more so just the attention to specifics. Whereas I loved the look of the whole 60s retro futuristic style, the characters don't really act like they're from the 60s, if that makes any sense. Whereas it felt like, not just in terms of the futuristic elements, the flying cars and the tech aspects and the little robot Herbie, I'm fine with all of that retro future aesthetic. However, I still think that the characters should act and talk like they're from a different time period. If you told me that this was set in a different universe and it's the 2010s or 2020s and it just has a retro aesthetic to it with the futuristic technology, sort of a Fallout situation where it's set in the future but the cars still look old, the buildings still look old, I could buy into that a lot more. Whereas you're trying to tell me from the look and just telling me when it's set that it's supposed to be in the 60s, and I'm like, but the characters don't really talk or act like they're from the 60s. Sure, they wear some old clothing, and sure, the buildings look old, and it has that aesthetic, but the actual tone and sort of atmosphere of the film doesn't feel rooted in the 60s. And I think that just kind of felt a little distracting to me. But I do like the little scenes where, Ben is walking through his old neighborhood and he does have that little interaction with Rachel. And I didn't mind how little development they had, because I just thought that overall they gave just enough of each character. I didn't need to see Sad Ben. If I want to see Sad Ben, I have an entire 2005 Fantastic Four movie where they just spend the entire runtime dumping on him. I like that we get a more confident version of this character, and having it set 4 years after they do get their powers, I think was a smart move, because then you are able to sort of bypass a lot of that. Same as, I like that we get an sort of arrogant, sort of cocky Johnny, but he's not a douchebag. And I do love that they give him the role in this film of decrypting Silver Surfer's language and pulling that little reversal move on her by playing her language and audio to kind of stop her from destroying that last teleportation pod. I thought that was a really great scene, and I like that Johnny actually does stuff in the film that actually helps the team. But I do agree, though, for a Fantastic Four movie, they really do nail the whole tight-knit family aspect, which is what we've been wanting. And again, this is not to say that the previous Fantastic Four movies are better than this by any stretch. They are not. They are much worse. I think me and Josh are going on record and saying this is a much better film than the two Tim Story films, as well as Fant4stic. But I'll be honest, I think in some of the previous iterations, they did a little bit better of a job with their powers and using their powers as a team. Even though the climax kind of sucked in the 2005 film, it was kind of neat, all of them using their powers to defeat Doctor Doom. You don't really get that, and I agree with Josh that maybe the whole climax would have worked a lot better if all four of them had used their powers in tandem to defeat Galactus. I still wouldn't buy it, because the Fantastic Four by themselves should not be able to defeat Galactus. That is just not the case. I was going to ask you,
does that ever happen in the comics? Because he's one of their villains, right? Or no?
I don't think so. The first time that he ever shows up is in one of the earlier issues of the 60s Fantastic Four run. And it's been a minute since I've read that comics, but from what I remember, the Watcher, who, if any of you guys watch the What If show, Marvel's What If show on Disney Plus, that character is kind of the overarching figure of all of those episodes and all of those different alternate realities and universes. The Watcher shows up and is the one who has to kind of stop Galactus from devouring Earth. In other iterations, like the Fantastic Four Life Story comic, spoiler alert if any of you guys are planning on reading that, but heavy spoilers for the Fantastic Four Life Story comic. I highly recommend it. It is a great, great comic. 6 issues, really great run. But in that comic, what happens is they trick Galactus, because you know how in this film the whole thing is give me Franklin as a baby and I'll spare your planet. In the Fantastic Four Life Story comic, the whole arc is Galactus sends Silver Surfer and he says, I'm getting tired, I'm getting old. Galactus needs a new Silver Surfer. If you, Reed Richards, agree to be the Silver Surfer and be the Herald of Galactus, he will spare Earth. So kind of like what Shala Bal does in the film. She makes the sacrifice for her planet to become the Silver Surfer. So that's kind of that arc, and they trick him in the end, and this is when Franklin is, I believe, either late teens or early 20s in the comic, but they attach a psionic band to Reed Richards, and when he is linked to Galactus, they use Franklin to essentially destroy Galactus's mind from the inside, but it's at a cost, because Galactus is defeated and the Earth is saved, but Reed Richards after that point is in a vegetative state. So there's like serious consequences to the story and to defeating Galactus. Whereas in this film, they defeat Galactus and what's really the casualty? A couple of buildings got destroyed. I could go watch a Godzilla movie and see more destruction. And that's what I think is missing. And even my roommate who I saw the film with had kind of pointed out, why didn't we at least even see a scene of Galactus destroying a planet? Like, you get one little scene early on where you see a planet being exploded from the inside, but I wanted to see Galactus really destroying a planet by himself, like the main man, you know, that sort of thing. And I guess that's just kind of like my overall, like, thoughts on the movie in terms of my criticisms is I feel like it's a weightless Marvel movie. I feel like it did nothing to stand on its own. Sure, the retro-futuristic aesthetic is nice, but the production design alone is not enough to, I think, separate this from a vast majority of the MCU. Like, yeah, the location is different, but it still has very similar story beats. It still kind of has that quippy Marvel humor for a lot of the film. But I also think that this film, for being a Fantastic Four movie, I think it took itself a little too seriously. I think whereas we're just coming off a Superman movie that felt very comic booky, very fun, didn't take itself too seriously, had its moments of heart, but still wasn't afraid to get a little corny, wasn't afraid to get a little goofy. Hell, you have a scene in that movie where David Cornsweat's Superman genuinely says, "Oh golly," and I loved it. And I loved that aspect of it. I think this Fantastic Four movie, it just kind of felt a little dry overall. Like, I wanted a fun Fantastic Four movie that was still competently directed and shot. And while I'll give it the competency aspect, I didn't have that much fun with it. I didn't think there was that many I didn't think that there was that many fun or interesting set pieces. I thought that the whole escape scene from Galactus's ship, I thought that was great. And again, that's my favorite scene in the movie, but I didn't really have that much fun. Again, we're coming off a Superman film where for days after I was thinking about different action scenes in that movie, different set pieces that'll stick out in my mind. I saw this movie yesterday, and outside of the Galactus sequence, most of it has just sort of left my brain. I'm not sure if I'm alone in that. Judging by the reviews, it seems like I am. I'm in the minority. And again, I didn't hate this, but...
Your favorite part with the Galactus scene, do you mix in the black hole chase also?
Yeah.
Okay.
I loved that. I loved that. But outside of that whole sequence of them escaping, entering the ship and then escaping, none of it really did much for me. I mean, okay, to be fair, I did really enjoy the sequence or scene where Shala Bal's Silver Surfer was flying through Earth, destroying all the teleportation pods. I thought that was cool. The VFX looked, and as a whole, the VFX in this movie looked very good. I think the CGI looks really, really good. However, in terms of visual direction and blocking and cinematography, outside of a couple action sequences, I'm going to compare it to Superman again because it came out 2 weeks ago. Much more forgettable. I think James Gunn is a much better director visually than Matt Shackman, who has mainly done a lot of TV work. But there's not a lot that I can point to in this film in terms of like direction or cinematography or just filmmaking in general that I'm like wowed by. Whereas I can point to a lot of scenes in Superman that really stick out in my mind and felt fresh and felt creative and felt unique. There's not a lot in this movie that I can point to and be like, oh, well, yeah, I haven't seen that before. I don't know.
So, for me, I guess I get enough. I kind of got enough action because I was very invested in how these characters operate and how they interact with each other and their community. So the family drama element to me felt nice. Like it didn't feel misplaced, and it felt like it gave me enough to hang on to throughout the movie. Like I did not feel bored, and I might go see this again. So I think we just
wow.
yeah. No, I'm gonna see Superman again. I'm probably gonna see this again. Like I really just enjoyed. I enjoyed a lot about this film. I had a couple like criticisms throughout in terms of just some character arcs, some stuff being left out in terms of like the subplots and some of the pacing. And yes, the ending, it could have been better. It just felt very convenient. But leading up to that, even like the ending, it could have been better. It wasn't like awful. There's a lot of it that doesn't make sense in terms of like how I don't like that the Fantastic Four and really Sue Storm is the one that defeats Galactus. That does bother me. I'm fine with her, with like Franklin resurrecting her. I mean, he is like the most powerful. He is like going to be the most powerful being. That is fine. I would take casualties elsewhere. But no, overall, there weren't many parts of it where I guess you were bored with this. I was just entertained even by the conversation between, you know, Sue and Reed in their preparation to becoming parents, and like I liked their back and forth of his rationalization of everything, like his brain mixed with her brain, and she's just more empathetic and just more of the like personal element. I liked how they like coincided and how they went back and forth. I thought that was a nice mix. I thought just how they all integrated themselves within the plot and each other was enough for me to feel entertained. So I guess we just got different experiences from this for what we're looking for. I don't know what we'll talk when we get off this episode, because this episode isn't about Superman. We'll talk more about like how much more you got out of that in terms of like visually and creatively.
Without spoiling things, I guess, in comparison, it's not even to say that I didn't enjoy the character moments. I think the highlight of the movie for me is the characters. Like, I really enjoyed this depiction of the Fantastic Four. I think maybe I would have liked a little bit more of that obsessive nature to Reed Richards. I don't think you quite get that in this movie, and that's one of my favorite aspects of that Fantastic Four life story comic is Reed almost destroys his personal life and his family solely because he is so fixated on preventing Galactus from destroying Earth. So I think I would have liked a little bit more of that incorporated into the film. But I do like those little character beats and the character dramas. I think those are some of the best parts of the movie. But again, you know me, when it comes to a film, the writing can only go so far, and I need more out of the filmmaking. And while, again, some of those action set pieces were really great, I just think in terms of like comparing dialogue scenes, I think, again, my biggest problem with a lot of the MCU movies, I've harped on it before. I've talked about it in our Raimi Spider-Man trilogy episode, where so much of the dialogue scenes, unless it's per se, and I don't mean to sound like a James Gunn fanboy, but it's just kind of the way it is. Hell, even Taika Waititi in something like Thor Ragnarok, the way that like dialogue scenes are filmed in those movies just feel way more interesting as a whole when it's not the action scenes. I think back to the dramatic moments in this film. Like, I love, from a writing standpoint and a character standpoint, I love the scene where they come to the realization that they're going to have to use Franklin as bait to defeat Galactus, where it's the only way. And you see that look on Pedro Pascal's face where he's like, he's run the numbers through his head. and he's like, this is the only way. This is the only shot we have to actually beat Galactus. And you see the look of horror on his face when he realizes what he has to do, and him vocalizing, oh, I'll find another way, when deep down he knows that he can't. And just the reaction that Sue has, where she knows what they have to do, and she kind of has this snapping moment where she says, like, I know, and turns invisible, and then it cuts to a shot of her outside in this sort of nighttime aesthetic where there's like a little bit of snow falling down, and it kind of looks nice. But then I think back to one of my favorite dialogue scenes in the Superman movie, when it's the whole interview process in the first act of the movie between Lois Lane and David Corn Sweat's Superman, and just how much more dynamic the dialogue was filmed in that. Or later on in the film, when Rachel Brosnahan's Lois Lane is approaching the Justice Gang, that being Guy Gardner, Hawk Girl, and Mr. Terrific, and just the much more dynamic camera movements and shots and framing choices in that scene, they're just a lot more interesting, in my opinion. And even comparing the action, I just think there's a lot more creative stuff and creative set pieces in that Superman movie than Fantastic Four, to where, to me, like, Superman blows this new Fantastic Four out of the water. And I don't even think it's close. I know, like, review-wise, both critically and audience reception, they are very, very neck and neck in terms of, like, the public reception of both. But on a personal preference standpoint, I would watch that movie again. The second it comes on HBO Max, I'm going to watch Superman again. I don't see myself revisiting this Fantastic Four movie, and it crushes me because I am a huge Fantastic Four fan. I really like these characters, and even though the actual depictions of these characters are probably the best they've ever been, from just a...
Yeah, that was a strong point for you.
Yeah, it's again, the characters, but the character work and the writing can only go so far. And I have a good enough memory to where, all right, I can remember those moments. I don't see rewatching this movie and getting anything out of a rewatch. But that's just me. I think that's kind of it for my thoughts. I don't know how much more you have left in terms of the movie, but I'm kind of tapped out of my notes that I did not take. I just kind of wrote down some pros and cons after the movie that I wanted to discuss, but I think we kind of covered all of those.
Yeah, I'm looking through. No, I mean, we pretty much touched on all the stuff. I mean, I think I got more out of this visually than you did. Maybe I can't remember as many moments from Superman that you can in terms of how interesting the camera work was. Probably more so than this in terms of camera work. In terms of overall visuals, you know, there's like different parts from each movie that I remember. I feel like I'm going to remember the world a little bit more in Fantastic Four than I will Superman. The overall world, I thought that was just very well done, and where maybe it doesn't have the pairing of as interesting visual camera work in terms of like just like camera movements and stuff like that, cinematography. I don't know, just overall building for me was very, very present. So yeah, I guess I'm a little disappointed that you didn't get as much there as I did.
Hey man, no one's more disappointed than I am. I wanted to really enjoy this. I knew I wasn't going to give it a 10 out of 10. There's no world in which a modern day MCU film about the Fantastic Four is going to get a 10 out of 10 for me. It's hard for a superhero movie in general. I don't think I've ever given No, the Spider-Verse movies I think are my only 10s in terms of superhero movies. But I just wanted to, on a personal level, enjoy this. Even critical eye aside, I wanted to enjoy this movie a lot more than I did. And again, the movie, it's competent. The characters are strong. The writing itself, in terms of the characters and their depictions, I really liked. All the casting choices I thought were really fun and well handled. As an overview of the movie, I just didn't love it. And I think I wanted to love it. And maybe that is hurting my overall score of it and my view on the movie. But I was disappointed.
I thought this movie looked so good in some areas. I went home researching mid-century modern interior designs because I was blown away by just how good it looked. And
yeah, production design though can only go so far for me. Like, yeah, the production design is cool, and I'll probably remember that aspect of this movie. But again, if you're comparing it to Superman, I just remember, like, even like, again, going back into like the action and stuff. there's not a single scene in this that even comes close to the Mr. Terrific fight scene in Superman. That was so kinetic. And that's another thing too, is just the overall atmosphere and tones of these movies, the energy and charisma, and I'll say it, the kids say it, Superman to me just had the sauce. It felt fun, it felt fresh, it felt exciting. I walked out of this going, yeah, that's another MCU movie.
Oh, no, I didn't. This was a difference for me in terms of like what I've gotten in the past. I mean, even since like Thunderbolts and Guardians 3, those have been the highlights for me, and everything else just kind of it's gotten forgotten.
I felt Thunderbolts had a lot more heart and a lot more personality as a whole than this Fantastic Four movie. I think you take out, and I hate playing the what if game, but if you remove the whole, it's set in this like retro futuristic 60s aesthetic, if you remove that element, I don't think that the film has much to offer. Visually, at least. Visually. Again, like the VFX look good.
Pitch it to the What If show.
Yeah. I stopped watching that show.
Yeah, I never watched an episode.
No, it's not very good. But either way, I think any other notes? All right, guys. No. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this this episode as a whole with us talking about Fant4stic as well as Fantastic Four First Steps. I know I probably pissed a lot of people off with my opinion on this Fantastic Four movie, but I am self-aware. I realize that I'm in the minority. This is an extremely well-liked movie, and although a part of me is glad that we have at least a competent Fantastic Four movie in 2025, I just wanted a lot more out of this movie. I think I wanted it to be special, and it wasn't special to me, and I think that is hurting my overall opinion on it. But I'm glad Josh enjoyed it a lot more than I did. Shall we get into scores, or?
Yeah, let's do it.
Alrighty then. So, do you want to go first?
Yeah,
or
I can go first. I know Jake's score unless he changed it a little bit from his letterboxd, but I'm gonna land on for now, I'm gonna land on a pretty crisp 7 out of 10.
That is a very adequate score, and if you know Josh, a 7 out of 10 is actually it's actually pretty high. I'm gonna go slightly lower. Again, I liked this movie, and I know it sounded like I hated it during this episode. I wanted to reiterate really quick. I think the characters are good. I think the score, like musically, it was fine. I wish that they had done a little bit more in terms of the music. I think they missed a lot of potential there when it comes to the whole 60s aesthetic. Could have fit in a little bit more 60s music, but that is what it is. Good VFX, good characters. I'm going to give it a 6.2 out of 10.
Even lower.
I know. I gave it a 6.4 initially on Letterboxd, but the more I thought about it waking up today,
Jesus.
I've already forgotten so much about the movie, and like I have a good memory when it comes to movies. There's movies that I haven't seen in 10 years that I can still remember more vividly than a lot of the elements and scenes from Fantastic Four, which I watched 24 hours ago. So in one ear out the other, I wanted to like it more, and maybe my preconceived notions and desires going into this movie are hurting my perception of it, but I'm just a man, not a Superman. I'm just a man.
We actually completely forgot to talk about the music, but I guess you just said you weren't that much of a fan.
I liked the bit at the beginning. And even from the trailers, I liked the whole, like, the Fantastic Four. Mm-hmm. I liked that part. But, yeah, they could have had a lot more fun with it. I liked the music in Superman a lot better. Get wrecked,
Shocker.
Fantastic Four.
James Gunn fanboy over here. Shocker.
You know, I might be. You could be fanboys of certain things. I don't know if I'm a James Gunn fanboy. I'm definitely a Robert Eggers fanboy.
I think Jake hates Zack Snyder too much to not be a James Gunn fanboy.
I do hate Zack Snyder. Not personally, just his movies and his cult fan base.
So Jake's starting his own James Gunn club.
Hell yeah. Gun to my head, baby. I'm gun-pilled. That's a soundbite. All right. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed us talking about the entire Fantastic Four quadrilogy. Maybe. I just found out the other day. I'm an idiot, guys. The entire 1994 Fantastic Four movie, there's a 4K upload on YouTube, which we totally missed. So maybe in the future, me and Josh will do a bonus episode talking about
man.
that one because it looks really fun. So maybe we'll do that in the future. We're talking about some bonus episode ideas that we're kind of throwing around. But that aside, I will recommend our next franchise that we'll be diving deep into. We are kicking off the late summer season with Friday the 13th, baby. That's right. We are doing all of the Friday the 13th movies. We are not doing Freddy vs. Jason, as we are considering that more of a nightmare movie. So if we ever do the Nightmare on Elm Street films, we will do Freddy vs. Jason there. But we are breaking this up into a 4-part series. We're going to be talking about Friday the 13th, part 1 through 3 in that first part, Friday the 13th, 4 through 6 in the second, 7 through 9 in part 3, and closing things out with part 4, we will be discussing Jason X and the 2009 Michael Bay produced Friday the 13th remake. So definitely stay tuned for all of that. It's our biggest series that we're tackling to date in terms of the amount of movies we're talking about. So I hope you guys enjoy us talking about those. Of course, these episodes air every 2 weeks on Tuesday, so definitely check us out there. We're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and if you're listening to this on YouTube, we post every other Tuesday to my personal YouTube channel, Former Film Student, where I post other TV and movie related content. Josh, if you'd like to plug our socials for the good people.
Sure, guys. Give us a follow on Instagram. Interact, comment, DM us, email us at franchisedeepdive@gmail if you want, if you prefer that method of communication. We are glad to have any type of feedback to get better for you guys, and maybe take any recommendations you guys have for any future movie series that you want to hear about. So give us a follow at Franchise Deep Dive, and thank you for tuning in. Always appreciate it, and we hope you look forward to Friday the 13th as much as I think Jake is looking forward to it.
Yeah. Okay. All right, and we recently switched things up, and since we're recording this, even though it's an episode that'll come out now, I started doing this a couple of recordings ago. I've already been honest about this, guys, on the podcast. We bank episodes. It's the only way to do all of these franchises without driving us insane or putting us on too serious of a time crunch. We want to put out quality content and not feel like we're being rushed to do things. But instead of doing a dad joke, which I was doing for a while, I decided that I really like stressing Josh out. What we're doing now is, instead, at the end of every episode, I'm going to ask a question to Josh, and he has 20 seconds to answer it.
20? I thought it was 30.
Well, now you're getting 20 because you took too long last time.
Jesus.
Now Josh gets 20 seconds to answer a question. What is the most overrated movie of all time? You can't say Avatar. You have 20 seconds in 3, 2, 1. Ding dong, ding dong.
Can I see the time? Can you just show
Yeah,
it to me as I think?
You have 13 seconds left.
Okay. Oh, God.
Most overrated movie of all time. Can't say Avatar. You have 3 seconds left.
Dark Knight.
Oh.
And guys, I think Dark Knight is really good, but Dark Knight, and I probably could think of a better one, but Jake only gives me 20 seconds here. I'm mostly thinking of when it first came out, though.
No, you're still correct. I don't think... I love The Dark Knight, too. I give it, like, a very, very good score. I love it. It's one of my favorite comic book movies, but some people think it's, like, one of the top 15 greatest movies of all time. It's like it's so high up on the IMDb top 250, and when you look at the movies that it stands next to, it is shocking. So,
actually, you know what? I can't change the answer, but it kind of flows with it. Inception is also up there for me, most overrated. Because people put that up there too, with like top, like I see that in enough top 10 lists, enough.
All right.
Yeah, well, Dark Knight.
Here to hear, folks, guys. Dark Knight, most overrated movie of all time. Send your hate. I'm glad you said that The Dark Knight, because that might shift some of the hate from this episode towards you.
Bring it on, guys.
Yeah, send your hate mail to Josh. All right, guys. Well, again, we are doing Friday the 13th as our next series, so stay tuned for part 1, which again is Friday the 13th, part 1 through 3. On the next episode of Franchise Deep Dive. And like Josh said, follow us over on our Instagram or email us or comment on our YouTube or leave a comment on Spotify. Also, follow us, leave us a review. Spotify and Apple Podcasts go crazy for reviews and ratings. So definitely follow us over there and leave a rating. It would greatly be appreciated. All right, guys. Well, that's it for the franchise deep dive, guys. We will see you on the next episode. Goodbye.
Catch you later.